Hey guys, very good morning, good evening, depending upon which uh, time zone guys you are listening online live with me. And welcome back, guys. Second day of this program. Yesterday, and I can say the first day, tons of powerful concepts of the Python we have started, right? Even though I started things from very zero in such a way, if you guys are new in any programming world or first time you're hitting this programming language, you guys can understand what actually the basic concept is. Even though I recommend, right, the first language in of any of the technological domain area, mostly in a program normally we start with C and C++ that normally give a fear of programming language. But if you start with Python, Python look wise and syntax wise is so simple, very intuitive. Most of the cases I'll give you a lot of examples today. It will be more like a human language, the way we human beings speak. Most of the code in the Python, it will look something like this, right? So they give you a confidence and also give you motivation for learning any programming language. So Python can be a great choice for you starting your journey in your technological field. Okay, but it is not like a basic thing, right? Almost any use cases you have, what I explained you guys in my yesterday class, right? Any field you belongs to, from web development to from quantum computers to cloud to IoT to DevOps. If you want to become a mobile developers or web developers, any of machine learning or data science or deep learning, whichever field you guys want to pursue or whichever technology you want to pursue a career, okay, Python can be and could be the best choice. All right. So I can say Python's a must. That's what Python's a must, and it is also everywhere. What you see in this blog here. That's what I can see here. It doesn't mean I don't like other languages. Every language has their own other benefits. Also, I've worked almost in all the possible programming language, 20 plus programming language I have worked in my career. But as a core general purpose perspective, Python is always the great choice. Okay, and this is the training that I've been designed in such a way that whichever field you guys belongs to, okay, it give you even though guys, if you guys go through my last class, I explain you in such a way that I keep on giving you idea that if you belong to data science, then this is the idea you can use. If you belong to cloud, then this idea you can use. If you belong to Linux admin, or if you want to create a script, then this is the idea you can use. So slowly, whichever field you guys belongs to, because I've worked in almost all the technological area, I keep on giving you the idea and the high level path that this is the area and this is some idea use case where Python can be useful, even though we started Python from very zero. So this is an exclusive program. Every possible internal concepts and core concept of the Python till all the advanced things related in the Python we are going to cover in this training. Even though I can give the guarantee, okay, if you go for any of the training program in any of the channel, or maybe in any of the a chargeable or free training program, I don't think so that level of content is going to cover in very depth with a lot of use cases. For example, if I am using for loop, I am going to explain you what are the use cases. If I'm using start with keyword, in the string, I explain you with some kind of a real example rather than just keep on giving you the concept and the output, right? So that's a one point. So if you want to know everything about programming, okay, for example, when I will start object oriented programming, I will explain you object oriented programming from very basics, then how to apply in the Python. So those basics you can apply in other programming language also, whichever programming language you want to start in parallel. For example, maybe one of the second or one more, not second, I can say this is like not first or second, but one more very powerful programming language in the market that is very much very much required in this technological area and journey is JavaScript. So after knowing this concept here, same concept you can apply in the JavaScript. Syntax will be different, requirement may be little bit different, but the concept wise they would be the same. How, what is if, what is for loop, what is while, what is function, what is method, what is object oriented and something like this, right? So without wasting and investing further time, let's quickly jump to the code. Lots of interesting concepts I'm going to explain you, and there are some concept that is only applicable in the Python as a programming language that makes this programming language so simple and very powerful also at the same point in time. So what are those concepts? Let's start again, continue from very basics, right? So what I'm going to do right now, let me open my whiteboard plus also open my command prompt. And yesterday guys, we have created one workspace for the Python, and all of our code I'm putting here. I'm going to launch Jupyter notebook. I'm writing initially all of my code in the Jupyter. Okay, so let me explain a little bit more about for loop. And I told you guys, whenever you want to you have some lines of code, okay, let's say this is the block of code we have or suite of code we have, and if you want to run this code again and again for some point in time or some time, or maybe like that number of times, right, it's called repeat. And whenever you want to repeat the code, it's called repeatable, right? Then or maybe you can say I want to run my code again and again, it's like a loop. There's two different way available. Okay, one, we can go for iteration. We can use the iteration for to repeat the code again and again, and one is recursion. Maybe by today class we might discuss about recursion also if we start the function concept today. Okay, but iteration is one way, and in iteration guys, yesterday I explained about how for loop can be useful, and there's one keyword we have is called while loop. But let me talk a little bit more about the for loop. Okay, and what is the iteration in the simple way? This term we can understand in this way also. Let's say we have some kind of data or the list, let's say 1, then 2, then 3 and 4, this list we have. And what I want to do, this is the independent data we have, this is the independent item we have. I want to pick this item and do something. Then I go to next step, pick this item, then do something. I pick this item, then do something. And then do something means I want to do same thing on data 1, same thing on data 2. For example, these are the mobile number, so I want to send the SMS to this number, send SMS to this number, send SMS to this number. For example, yesterday I show you one demo where I use this concept and I send SMS via WhatsApp. So we had created Python code in my yesterday class where I used Python code to send the WhatsApp messages. Okay, but I want to do same thing with all the mobile number. Okay, so this process guys is called iterate or iterative process. So whenever you have any iterative process, you have to pick some item and do something, pick some item, do something. Okay, then in this context, in the Python you can call for loop. While loop also we can use somehow, but better for loop or for keyword give a much powerful capability, and they make the things very simple. Okay, so that's what guys we have discussed yesterday, but I'm going to show you some more powerful concept of the for loop that is very unique in the Python. As such, it's not available as such in any other programming language. Okay, so I'm going to create a list of mobile numbers, for example. Okay, and let's say this is the mobile number first, this is the mobile number second, this is the mobile number third. We had created this kind of list yesterday. Okay, so this is a mobile number we have, right? And what I want to do, I say for loop, go inside in is a keyword I explained you yesterday, inside this list, then pick first mobile number, store in one variable, let's say m, and do something with this m. Right now I'm just doing and printing over here. That's all. Nothing very technical. But let's say we have a requirement. Okay, and let's say we have a requirement. What I want to do, I want for loop only print or use or send SMS. Okay, even though guys I showed you yesterday how to send the WhatsApp message, take one homework from my side. Okay, just try to find some code in the Python how you can send SMS to mobile number by Python code. So take this as a homework. Maybe in my upcoming class I will help you to provide this code. So take this example. Okay, try it by yours, so I can say how to send SMS to the mobile number by the Python code. Okay, just try it. But let's say I want to send the SMS here. Right now, just for demonstration, I'm just printing the entire data here. But let's say I have a requirement, I only want to print, okay, I only want to print that when I have 2 to 2. Let's say we are looking for 2 to 2. Okay, and as soon as the 2 to 2 come up, I want to let's say I'm looking for this number, and after this number come up, I want to print it, then I want to stop my for loop. Okay, so what can I do here? I can use again this condition if I show you yesterday. I say you contain data, and I'm looking for 22222 as my number. When you find this number, okay, go inside, then print it. But if I pick this one, this number is not equal, don't print this. So this concept, guys, I will explain to you, very simple concept. So whenever this number come up, then only they print this message for you. Okay, but in this example, you know, guys, mobile number in the world with a country code is unique. Let's say we are looking for, does this mobile number is available? Okay, this is my requirement. Just want to check, does this mobile number available? We are looking for some number, some name, or some ID. If this mobile number is available, then they will print the message, I found the mobile number available. But let's say I'm looking for other number, 6666 is not available. Okay, so they say nothing gonna come up because they doesn't find it. So my point, guys, here is what I'm trying to tell you here is, okay, I want to do something like this. Okay, I want to something like this. If my mobile number that I'm looking for is not available, in this case, I want my program will send me a message called not found. Okay, how can we do this? Again, I'm repeating, I am looking and writing, I want to write a code in such a way the for loop will retrieve this number. Okay, retrieve this number, and when they compare it, if they found, they will print I found this number. But let's say for loop we go this one, that one, all the number, and if you don't find this number in any of the field or any of the position or the index position, they will throw the message I don't found. Okay, one way if you try to do this, maybe if you write else here, in this case, if you do so, not found, so you know what happened behind this, and this is what I'm looking for. In this case, what they do, they print that many times. So first number they pick, does it equal? No. They go to else, they said not found. They go to next number, for loop take into m, does it equal? No. They will not found. This is not what I am looking for. I am looking for loop will go to all the lines. Okay, and if you don't found this number, then only they will say this message not found. That is my requirement. Okay, I don't want to repeat this. For example, I have 1 billion number, I don't want to print 1 billion time. Okay, how we can do this? Multiple way we can do it, but in the Python they make this kind of concept very simple. Okay, typically, guys, if you work on any programming language, okay, mostly we use else with if always. Okay, if means if this condition is not true, then only else will work. That's what you guys know, we discussed in the yesterday class. Okay, but in the Python, okay, else is also supported with for loop also. Okay, so what can we do? Instead we write else here with if, we can also write else with the for loop also. And you guys know, whenever we write anything something like this, so this, if you give the space, this is called indent. This is the block of code for the for loop. Okay, but if you write else without any space, then else is not a part of for loop. It means for loop only have this line of block of code. When the for loop run, only this code run. Okay, and then this is the separate code. It's not a part of for block of code or for loop block of code or suite of code. Okay, now in this case, else is a part of for, and again same context or same concept, I can say. What for loop do? They will pick the data and keep on running. Okay, and what else we do here? Okay, if for loop is running, they have 10 data or 6 data, 5 data here. For loop will pick this data, do something, pick that, do something, and as soon as they reach last and there is no data available in the in your list, for loop say my part is done. Now I am done. if I have any else statement with me, so I'd like to go to my else statement. Okay, now in this case you will see now this message is gonna come up. Okay, so I would like to repeat one more time, okay, to make it a little bit simple. As a for loop, go in this mobile data and store data in I variable, and I want to do something with I. After my for loop completely done, they want to run else concept on the for loop, then I want to do something, let's say by. In this case they will first go and iterate through all the datas, and for loop say when my entire data completed, I am intelligent tool or keyword, I know this is last data, I know after this there is no data left. Okay, I won't give any error to you here. Okay, and what I say, I will complete myself, and then if I have any else code, then I'll go to my else code and print whatever, or I will do whatever you write here. That's what by they printed. Same thing here they are doing. Okay, they're looking for some data, or they're doing something here. After this entire data complete, then they go to else loop. But let's say I'm looking for 222. Okay, 222. It means they will go this number, thus the is equal to no, then they go to this number is equal to yes. So finally I found message is gonna come up. But here there's one more challenge you will find. You will find I find also come up and else not found also come up. This also print. Why it's print? Because by default for loop will go to this data also, this also, this also, this also, and this also. Okay, they go to all the data by default till last, and they keep on comparing everyone. By chance we compare here already, so they may print the message. But after this also again for loop go to next person, then next person. Okay, and after guys, by default nature of the for loop, as soon as they list last, after for loop complete done with the entire data you have, then only for loop will run the else condition, otherwise they don't run. Okay, but so if you want else condition only run after they iterate all the data, then only else condition run. Okay, this is by default nature of the for loop. But in some cases if you don't want to run else condition, okay, so what can you do? There's one keyword called break you can write here. Okay, break means for loop always run all the data, but you want to run for loop in between, or I can say you want to stop for loop in between somewhere, you can use the break keyword. Okay, and when you want to run the break code, that will be your choice. In this case, most of the cases we always write the conditions. So what we can write here, I can say for loop, pick first data, run your block of code. Okay, if this data is equals to 111, no, I won't print this. Then go to next data, does this condition equal to 222? Yes, I will run this, and I break. Break means I'm asking you don't go to next item. Okay, and because you're not going to next item, it means you have to stop. And because you have to stop, go to the next statements, whatever you have in the code. But because you haven't completed yourself till the last data, or because you haven't completed, it means don't run else also. Okay, else only run with the for loop if after you complete the entire data. And guys, here is working fine the way we wanted. Okay, let's say I'm looking for, thus we have a data called 333. Yes, we found it. But let's we have data called 777. Okay, they go now, in this case none of conditional match, it means they go to till last, and because they go to till last, they don't found, so they won't print this. And because they hit to last, it means entire data has been done, then only they will run the else keyword, and else keyword run, then this message print. That's what we wanted here to print. Then this message is gonna print. It's a very interesting concept, guys, if you try to think. Okay, so very limited language, or I can say very rare language, support else with for loop, even though we can support else with while loop also. So else is a one keyword. Okay, it can be supported with if, it can be supported with for loop, and can be supported with the while loop also. Only difference would be if you provide false to the if, then only else will run. Okay, in the for loop, if you run the for loop completely till your last item, or the iteration is completely done to the last item, then only after this else will run. And while loop, I'll show you in while loop also, but in the while loop we have to create a loop. If the entire loop completed, okay, then only else will run. Something like for. Okay, but some, because they supported, then because of this support else, a lot of interesting concepts we can build. For example, this is a one interesting concept we built. Without this also we can build by some programming concepts, but having this concept make the your this finding and searching something become very simple and sophisticated. So this is, guys, one more concept I want to tell you about the for loop. Same thing is there in the while loop also. I will show you how to use while loop. So there's two concepts I explained to you guys. What is use of break keyword. Same concept is there in the while loop also. Okay, wherever you want to stop your loop, there we write the break keyword, and mostly there we always use conditions to tell where to stop. Okay, logically. Second thing is, if your for loop run completely, okay, then it will always go to else. Okay, sometimes else is also useful in this way. For example, this is a list of mobile numbers, or let's say I'm going to create one more list. Is my emails list. Now we have the list of emails what we have created yesterday also. So let me pick from there. So we save our time. So I think in this code we create a list of the email addresses. Okay, I'm copying the list of email addresses from here. So this is what, guys, we had created yesterday. Okay, so there's a list of email addresses we have. Let me use emails. Okay, and if I ask for loop, go in, pick the emails in a variable called email. Okay, this is normal standard practice because this list contains a lot of emails. So you normally start with plural here, means the S, right? And because for loop, I have to pick only one email at one point in time, so we go give a singular keyword here like email. That makes more logical sense. Otherwise, if you use ij variable, sometime in real world code, the ij xyz kind of variable makes a lot of confusion. And then let's say I want to print. Okay. But guys, one homework I had given you yesterday, use Python to send mail. So find some code in the Python to send emails to some email IDs. So this can be replaced with the mail function that I have given you as a homework. Okay, but let's say I have a requirement. This code is sending the email, and after all the emails sent done completely, then my else can be useful and say, okay, mail send to all. That makes more logical, right? So when I run this code, this message will print. On this message, maybe again you are sending the mail to admin team that I have done successfully send all the mail. By chance any intervention come up in between and you for loop by chance stop here due to some reason, so this message doesn't print. Okay, so they won't be notified that something is not happened, right? Something like this. So there's a multiple idea and the use cases where this else is so powerful with the for loop. Okay, this is one concept I would like to explain. Now let's take some more example here. Guys, yesterday I explained you if condition. Let's say guys, if how we write this, for example, I have a salary variable that I explained you yesterday. Let's say my company is offering me 5 salary, and if I say if my salary is equals to or greater than 4, for example, then I will accept the thing that what guys code something like this we had discussed yesterday. Else I say no. So if my salary is 5 greater than 4, I say okay. Okay, this one. But there is some use case. We have some requirement we have, okay, where what I want to write here, if my salary is 5, okay, in this case I want to set my, let's say, target. Let's say I'm the sales guy. Okay, if my salary is, my company is offering me 5k salary, for example, or some unit of salary in some particular currency, okay, then I want to set my target. I will set a sales target of 40k for this quarter or for this month. Okay. Otherwise, if my company is giving less than 4k, is greater than 4, less than 4k, then I will set my target, let's say equals to 20. Okay. So target is like a sales target for the company. So based upon my salary, okay, or based, let's say this is upon my incentive, they plan or whatever they have, right? We set this variable. So technically when I run this and I ask, can you tell me what is your target you set? So based upon my salary, I set target 40. But somebody is giving, let's say 2 only as salary incentive, the target would be 20. So this can be, guys, one concept. But this concept, guys, we can do in any programming language, but in the Python, same concept we can do it very simply. Because I told you guys yesterday, the best code in the today's world is one that you can, entire logic, guys, this is one single logic, right? Maybe you have 5 lines of code, but the entire concept and one logic is one. I want to set my target either 20 and 40 based on this condition. So you guys just try to focus on this line. It is just one single concept, one single requirement we have. And good programming practice in today's world or in the new generation language world is and that is also known as functional programming language. So as a functional programming language perspective, that is one kind of new generation language, okay, or next generation language I can say. They say whatever logics you have, one single logic, rather than you write in the entire 4, 5, 10 lines of code, if we can somehow draw and write in one single line, or it's like a one inline code that always makes your code very simple and with limited lines also, make it simple and small also. So same code in the Python, how can we do? So motto would be, I want to set my target variable, either value is 20 or 40. This is our requirement. Okay, so this is my requirement. So I will set 40. Okay, and if my company is offering me salary greater than 4. Okay. In this case, I will set my target 40. Otherwise, in any other cases, I will set my target 20. Okay. Let's say same code. Okay, I can change in this way. Now what happened, guys? This is just a normal variable, right? Even though if I explain you, like in x equal to 5. So by default, whatever value you write, you type, it will be assigned to x variable, right? Same thing happening here. Target is also a variable. 40 is the value. But here, before we assign 40 to this variable, we are checking the condition with if keyword. If this condition true, then only we will assign 40. If this condition false, then we won't assign 40. Instead, we will assign else this code 20. See guys, it's working fine. And in this case, we have 20. 20. Because right now my salary is a one variable and this variable value is less than 4. Okay, but if I change my salary variable here, let me copy this variable, put somewhere here. Okay, if I send my salary 20, then my target will set to 40 because this is greater than 4. Okay, so this is one interesting concept, guys. Sometimes very useful, even though this code is very simple. But in the future, when I explain the function, so we can write something like this. We can add one function here and one function here. Okay, and say if this condition is true, then run this function. This function will get the data from Google Drive and store in this variable. And this function is, if this function is full, then go and connect to my database. Okay, and get the data from here and store here. So lots of powerful concepts we can build in this area. I'll show you a lot of examples for this. Right now I'm just explaining you the syntax, what Python offer to you to make the code very simple, inliner, and like a new next generation kind of code. So entire logic, guys, is spread rather than in the multiple lines of code. Now by looking at this code, it looks very clean, simple. If this condition is true, then only this become 40, otherwise become 20. Okay, right here this 20 is just a number. Instead of number, you can put the string also. Let me show you. Instead of 20, you can put say no job. Okay, or instead I can say I get the job. So you can put the strings also because the condition true, so they give the job. Because the company is offering 40k salary, 20k salary, so this kind is true. And it's not only that you have to use a string only, you can use a functions also here. Functions also, like mail function or any other functions. But when function return something, then this will be assigned to the target. What I mean by return, so I'll pause this point right now. Today I start explaining the function, then return, then we come back to this topic and I'll show you how to use the function here and assign the value directly in the variables. But it's so powerful concept, very much useful, and one single liner we can create a very powerful code. Entire concept, entire use case we can write in one single line of code also. Okay, there's one more interesting thing I want to explain about Python. Okay, let's see some more thing here. Let me take one more interesting concept of the Python. Let's say I have a requirement. Okay, I have a list of numbers, 1, then 2. Okay, or maybe take a list of number for a while just to understand the concept. And my requirement is I want to double the number. I want to square the number, 1 into 1, 2 into 2, something like this. So again, we can use for loop because the requirement is very simple. I want to pick this number, do something. I want to pick this number, do something till the last. So in this context, we always use for loop. Say for loop, go inside this DB, pick some value in the I variable. And what to do with I? Let's say just to print it. I always print to check my syntax, working fine. But instead of print, do one thing, multiply one more time because I want to do square root. Okay, not square root, square. Okay, or then one more way, you can also write *2 means is again square. I told you this concept, this is a power. So let's say value is 2, so 2 to the power 2, value 3, 3 to the power 2, this is called 9. So that's what that done is for us. Now my requirement would be, this is my output. I don't want to print this output. I want to store this output in my other variable, other list. Okay, why list? Because there's a multiple output. I want to store multiple output. We always want to use list. So for this, what can I do? I will create one extra variable here. Okay, let's say my final output variable. Output. Oh, come on. Variable empty list. Okay, it means initially I have the data. This variable is empty. And now what I want to do, for loop will go pick this data from here, make it double. Okay, I don't want to print this. I want to make it double. And after double, let me store this value in some temporary variable called j. And this output initial is 1, then 4. I want this output stored in this list. And how to store, guys, append function I showed you yesterday. And we can store j. Okay, so I initial is 1 is become power of 2, it go into j, and j will store, append this into the list called output. This is this one. Now in this case, output won't print because we haven't printed, but finally output will store in the variable called output variable. Why I want to store? Multiple reason maybe. Okay, these are the data we have and I want this data to be used in the future. So we are processing this data. After processing, we store in this variable and I want to use this variable or list in the future for some other purpose. Nothing very technical code. And in other language also you can do it by the same context and same logic. But again the same idea. Okay, if you see this line and this line, even though we can write this code in one single cell also right now in Jupyter. So this line would be this one and I can type this part also here. Okay, same output gonna come up obviously. So but here guys, this are 4, 5 tensor lines of code. Okay, finally they are doing one single thing. The use and the requirement is one single. What they are doing, they are only processing this data, okay, and storing over here. Okay, I can give one term for this. Okay, we can give some term for this. Whenever you have something like this, if you have some data stored somewhere, if you want to pick this data, okay, to do something, this concept is called extract. After you pick, then store in I, then you do some processing on this data. I mean, multiply, divide, whatever you want to do. Okay, to means 2 will be converted to 4, 3 will be converted to 9. Something you're doing, some processing you're doing is called transform. You're transforming your data. And finally, your final output you're storing in some place. For example, output variable we're storing. This is called load. Finally, is your ETL operation. So guys, in data analytics world, data engineering world, if you belongs to big data, Hadoop or Spark and all these areas, ETL is a very, very common thing we always do. So in the data engineering world, if you belongs to this field, so ETL operation is very common. It's not TELE, because there's multiple other operations also possible, but ETL is the operation we are performing here. Maybe this might be not so much very useful, but the idea is ETL. Okay, but here finally, if you see the entire ETL operation, okay, ETL operation, right? In this operation, the final motto is I want to do something on this data and get this answer. So these 5-10 lines of code maybe will give you one single point, one thing, one operation they are performing for you. That operation is mostly known as ETL operation in the data engineering world, not in the data science world, because this kind of operation we do mostly in data engineering. Okay, so how can we do the same thing in one single line? So I can do how? For example, I am looking for the output. This is my final requirement. Okay, this is my final requirement, and my entire data or this data will be stored here. Okay, but who will give me a data? So who will extract the data? For loop. From where? From this particular list. Okay, this list is your normal list, or maybe in the future I show you how to connect with database. This will come from database also, from other location, or from file also. So for loop will go in this list, okay, and store your data temporarily in a variable called I. Same syntax I'm writing here, I. Okay, and whichever temporary data of I they come up, I will process something here on the I. And how to process? We can write condition here. That's all. Whatever you write here in those 4 lines of code is done in one single line of code. Just one single line of code. Let me show you output. Same output gonna come up. Okay, you don't be confused. So let me give the different variable name. Okay, so same output gonna come in. So logic would be, this is a list, guys, and guys, very powerful concept. Very limited language support this. Okay, inside the list also known as array, but inside the list also we can directly write the for loop and use the same concept. Go to my this particular list. Let me write the list here. Go to this particular list, pick the value, store in I, and whatever operations you want to perform on the I, you can perform here. This is the syntax they use. Okay, and the output of this, right, would be the store or append in this particular list here. 1, the next output I will be 2, 2 power 2 is 2, 4 they store here. Next is 3 we pick 3 to power 2 is 9, and 9 will store here. Okay, that's what powerful. So one single line, the entire ETL operation of this kind of concept, just typically in market mostly the ETL operations. Okay, but you can give any, or maybe have any other requirement also, we can do by this simple logic. And for the Python perspective, this concept is known as list comprehension. List comprehension. This is a concept in the Python known as list comprehension we have. Very useful and very powerful concept. Okay, but a lot of things we can do. For example, let's say in this example, I want to do a power of something, but my condition is would be, okay, if I will do power only, okay, only when the data is 3. I can write a condition. If my I is equals to 3, then only I will do this power, then only append. It means if you find any data that is 3, then only I will do power. Or maybe I can do reverse. I want to do power, not the 3 apart from any data. I can use not operation. So technically they will go pick 1. Does 1 is equal to 3? No, condition is true. Okay, because looking for not, then they do power, then append. So in this case, apart from 3 power, everything will be stored. Okay, so this is the normal typical programming syntax we can write in this way. But same concept we can also write in list comprehension. How? So for loop is the one who retrieve data and run the loop. Then they run this operations here. But before you run the operation, if you want to check the condition, something like this. Okay, this thing you have to write after the for loop, somewhere here. So typically your list comprehension divided into 3 parts. This one, and this one. First for loop run, they pick the data. Okay, then they check the condition. If the condition match, then only they run this. Operations. Okay, if this condition doesn't match, that point in time what a data for loop retrieve, okay, they don't run this operation. So in this case, you see same output gonna come up. Now it is your choice, okay, how to give the true to if. As I explained to you, you can give a true or else, true or false to the if with the help of functions also. We can add functions also. Okay, and what operation I want to perform here? I can add functions. Function will do something. I can take the email address and send the mail. Okay, and output of the function I will store here. Output will be mail send, not send, send, not send. So I will function will return something, and that output will store here in the list. What it written? Those who doesn't know, I will explain to you. So all the remaining concept and what you concept okay, can be applied here to make this code more powerful and more sophisticated. Okay, that is also one very interesting concept. But list comprehension is a very powerful facility we have here. Okay, so this is also one concept I'd like to explain. I will tell you one more small concept, nothing very technical but useful sometime. Let's say we have a different list. So this is a list of I already have the list of email, but let's say I have a list of the names. So I have multiple names in my company. Let's say Vimal is one employee name, Jack is one other part of my company, Pop is one part of the company, Eric is one part of the company. Okay, and what I want to do here, nothing very technical, but I want all the name to be converted with my company domain name. Okay, like email address. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so in this case, we can again use for loop, same way. I can say I want my final emails, or I can say final emails would be new list, where I ask for loop, go inside this names. Okay, pick the names in, let's say, n variable. Okay, and and what n content. Right now, if I just run it just to show you, so syntax because you have to write here, but what n content finally. Okay, finally content name. So if I just write n, they will give the exactly same list, but I'm not looking for this. I want this n will be added to my company email domain name. Before this, I want to show you a very small thing you guys might know, but let's say, before I explain you how to add, let's say I have some string called Linux. Okay, and what I want to do, this string I want to add with other string. So guys, almost in any programming language, we use either use dot or plus. So let's say s is one string I want to add with world. That's all. So this string will be added to this string. So plus is an operator that we can use to add two string together. That's called concat. So if you want to concatenate the things or concatenate the string, so concat or concatenation, right? We can use plus operator. Okay, in some of the language we use dot operator also. In some language we have function of concat also available. So if you want to add to a string, this is the option we can do. Or you want to add with some extra space, either give the space here, or we can add one more plus, and between we can write one more string with the space. Space is also like a string. So this string is Linux, this string is just word, world, and we add one more string together. 3 strings we added and concatenate together, and it looked like this. Linux word. Okay. So there's one small thing I want to tell you before I go ahead. Then that's what I want to do here. N is a one kind of string, and I want to add this string with a, let's say, my company domain name called linuxworldindia.com. Okay, so every name will be added by the string, so they will have their own email address created. Okay, very quickly they create for you. But there's a possibility. Some email address is I have a list of my customer, and some of the email ID name already come with the email IDs. I don't want to change this. Okay, let's say I have some email ID with gmail.com. Okay, so I want that anybody who don't have the Gmail ID, then only I want to give lw.com, something like this. In this case it won't work. In this case, after the email also they add this one, because technically for us we are, this is string, after the string we add this part also. I don't want this. I want, if anybody has gmail.com already attached, I don't want to replace this name. And I also don't want to add after this. So in this case, guys, this is a one condition we have, and in the condition, in the list comprehension we write here if. And how to write this condition, I told you guys yesterday. N is a one string. This is a one string that contains the name. And a string, guys, has a method called, if I write dot tab is not working here inside the list, but let's say this is a string, and a string we can write dot tab, and we have a function called and with. This is what I want to use. Okay, and with. So this concept I showed you yesterday already to you. I say if anybody have the name or string and with gmail.com. Okay, so if this string and with gmail.com, no, so this will to give false, and when the false come, this will won't run. But I want to run this, so I can make it not. So we can make it not here. Okay, it means when this name come in the n variable, okay, by the for loop, then they check the condition that this name and with Gmail, no, then they give the answer false, but not make the false become true. And guys, whenever if give it true, then only they will run this particular operations, and that's what we're looking for. So finally, if you run this, you see in the final email address, this all the name will be come up here. Gmail will replace because I don't want to run this, so and won't take this. So I only wanted to retrieve those names who don't have the email IDs, especially gmail.com. Okay, and I want to add my company domain name email address. But here Gmail is example, somebody might have different ID also, I don't want to change. So for this, there's one concept in the future class come up called regex, regular expression. So we can write some regex here. So any ID look like gmail.com, yahoo.com, lw.com, any different ID they have, I don't want to replace. Right, only one who don't have the ID, then I will replace. So those kind of customizations also we can do in my upcoming class when I talk about some other concept called regex and something like this. Okay, but see guys, here in one single line, entire requirement has been solved. You can do without this also by this way, but this is very typical older way. For learning purpose, this way is good, but for the real world and today's next generation perspective, we want to create a code in such a way that anybody in the future come and read your code, especially obviously those who know Python. By looking at this code, they can understand what you're doing, rather than they go up and there and see different variables names. Okay, by looking at the code, they know this is what exactly you're doing over here. Okay, so that's what the main perspective, and this is again one of the idea behind functional programming language. So if you search a functional programming language, okay, so this program for functional programming language has multiple guys, again we are not into functional programming language here in this training. We are purely learning Python as a core concept completely in and out. Okay, and whichever area you want to use, that will be your idea. But one of the property of any functional programming concept is one of the paradigm of the programming language. Again, that's so much important just to for you right now. But one of the idea they say, if you want to make the code more clear, straightforward, try to write a code in such a way that in one single line you will have your code, ready, and also explain you the concept. This is one of the things functional programming will do. Otherwise, there's have lots more concept in this world of functional programming. But that is not right now at all important. Okay. So this is on concept of variables, if and else also, and plus the list comprehensive also I explain to you. Okay. Now let's do some more thing. Okay, some more thing. So guys, what is loop? You guys know what is loop? Okay. We have the for loop. Same way, guys, we can also write the while loop also. Let me show you very quickly how the while loop can be useful. Okay, so syntax will be something like this. Let's say I have, let's say I can give a very simple example to understand the while loop. Okay, let's say I have a book and somebody give you the homework in the book. Open the first page, write something, then go to next page, write something, go to next page, write something, go to next page, write something. And let's say this something is same. Let's say you're in the schools, and sometime when we have some punishment of declaration writing or essay writing, if you do something wrong and they ask you to write this essay or this vocabulary 10 pages. Okay, essay same 10 pages. So this is what the same thing I want to do 1 time, 2 time, 3 time, 4 time. Let's say till 10 time. Very, very simple point to think to understand this point. So technically what they are asking you here is you have to write the essay or some statement or some vocabulary, okay, and you have to repeat again and again. But you have to start from page number 1. Page is the one variable we have here, okay, and you run this essay 10 times. So here we can use while loop and say just keep on running this till the time you reach page number 10. So for page number 1, then 2, then 3, okay, and as you reach the page number 10, then stop. Again, this is a while loop. Same syntax we do. You use what you use the if or else. We use colon, and then we give some indent, a block of code. Okay. So in this case, guys, for writing this code, let me create one more new page here due to some reason. One more new extra page I am opening a notepad. Let me copy this code here and let me paste here. So in this case, okay, how while loop work? Okay, while loop will always check this condition, and while loop, guys, is almost look like a if, I can say. If also check the condition, and if we give true to the if, they will run the block of code. Similarly, while loop is also checking the condition. If this they give it true, then this block of code will run. Okay, almost like if. Only difference between if and while loop is if the syntax is right, if we run the code and then they go to the next line, or they go to else maybe. When the while loop, if this condition true, then they run their block of code, then again they come back to check the condition. And again, if the condition is true, then again go inside and run the block of code. Again they'll go back and check the condition. And they keep on doing till time this condition become false. But when some time come up, when this condition falls, then in this case while loop don't run this and they break the while loop, they go out. Okay, that's what the idea of the while loop. So I normally compare the while loop with the if. In my case, I normally compare in this way. Okay, now in this case, if you run this code, you will see, guys, nothing come up because my page is 1. Okay, this is not equals to 10. This comparison is false, so they won't run this for you. Okay, instead I can write the code in this way. If my page is less than or equals to 10, so initial number is 1, so have you reached to page number 10? No. You are at page number 1. Does the condition true? Yes. Then they run the block of code. But in this case, you guys see, you will see they keep on printing, right here. They keep on printing and keep on printing for you. Okay, it's look like they keep on doing this thing operation for you. Again, you can think your teacher and in the school day they say you write some wrong essay, then you have to start from page number 1, write the essay here, and you have to do till page number 10. But they forget to tell you have to change the page number. So you start from page number 1, again reach the same page, start page number 1, again reach to same page, something like this. It's like an infinite loop. Why? Because we keep on overwriting the same page again and again. Okay, so what we have to do, you have to ask very clearly, you have to go to the next page. Something like this. I'm just giving as this example as an analogy, especially for those guys who are new in programming world. Otherwise, those who know language, they know this concept very well. And guys, any cell in the Jupyter, if they keep on running for 1 minute or 10 minutes or infinity, you always see the star here. See here, the star. The star means the code is still running, and till the time code is running, you won't able to run the next code. So if you run the next code, for example, here, it won't run. Okay, why star? Because my last code is still working, running. Same way, not in Jupyter, if you run your code normal text file also, if this code is running for 1 minute or maybe infinity, till the time this code doesn't complete, they won't go to the next line of code to run it. But this line, guys, never complete, because page value never change, they always true, and because they always true, this while loop will become the infinity loop. Okay, this one. So in this case, you have to stop your program, entire program. This could terminate the program, and the Jupyter, if you want to terminate the program, so in the kernel, there's an option called kernel. You have to restart and clear output. By this way, you can close the program or terminate the program. Okay, that is the reason why I use the different file to write my code. Okay, so according to our logic, what we have to do after we change the page, we have to go to the next page. Okay, but most of programming language, guys, this syntax work. This syntax means if my initial value of page is 1, then they make it 2. But in Python, guys, this syntax doesn't work. For example, if x is of 1, and if I want to increase the value x, it won't work. So this syntax doesn't support in Python. Like in C, C++, this syntax work. Okay, so in the Python, if you want to increase the value to 1, then this is what we have to write. So our current value x is 1, added with 1, it will 2, then finally x value would be 2. So this is one syntax we can use to increase the value, or maybe to decrease the value. And then one more syntax, guys, we can write in this way also, plus equals to 1. It means whatever the current value of x, add with 1, new value would be finally stored in the x only. So this is also one of the syntax you can use to increment or decrement value. You can use star, minus, anything. Let me give one more example of this. Let's say we have x equals to 5, we have y equals to 10. Okay, and what I want to do, I want to do x plus y, but this final value I want to store in y only. So this is also one of the way we can write, or we can write this syntax in this way also, plus is equals to this one. It means what is the current value of x and what is the current value of y, 10 and 5, 15, add it, plus means add it, and after add, the final value would be stored in y only. So this is the faster way to do it. Okay, but instead of plus, you can use minus, multiply everything. For example, instead of plus, we can use multiply also, divide also, say 15, or we can use, for example, divide. Divide means, for example, you have to divide y with x, this one, or y x with y, this one. Okay, we can divide. So same way we can also divide here. So y will be divided by the x, and final output will be stored in the y only. 1 minute. See here? So this is what shortcut, or this is normally called shorthand operators. So with the help of this shorthand operators, sometimes we can quickly write the code. Write shorthand operators we can use. Okay, any mathematics symbol that you normally use here, all the things we can do. For example, I take one more example here. If I divide 5 by 2, it's 2.5. But if you want to find the floor of it, Okay, floor means in 2.5, okay, anything apart from this decimal number means your whole number before the decimal, this is called floor. So we can use this symbol. Okay, so anything you want to create for example, if I write 7 by maybe 3, but I am only interested in my number to come before decimal, that is called floor. And this finding the floor, getting the floor, sometimes useful. Sometimes guys, if I divide something, you only want interested in the whole number, you want to discard the decimal number in some cases. Okay, then we can use this symbol. This symbol is called floor division. Floor division. Okay, you can use. Okay, so any operation almost they support here in the shorthand. Okay, for example, let's say x is 4 and y is 10. Okay, and if I try to do 4 operation, let's see they support or not. Supported, and 2 will come up. If we divide 10 with 4, 2 point something gonna come up. Okay, and they will take the whole number part, let's go floor part, they will take it. Okay, so or maybe I can say ceiling part of, they will discard the ceiling part and get the floor part, whatever you say, it's the same thing, but I understand what they give to you. So multiple different, all the mathematical operations that you normally perform like this, you can add in the shorthand operators. Okay, now come back to this point here. So instead of this, I can write piece plus equals to. Now in this case, my code run essay, print essay 10 times. Okay, but here again we can use the else condition also, the way I explained in the if. Else also we can write, that's what the support in the Python, and say bye, that's all. Okay, when the else done, when the while loop completely done, then only else will run. See here, after they run print 10 times, then they print bye. Okay, then they print bye. And one more thing, maybe let's say I want to write a condition, if my page is equals to 5th, in this case only run this. Okay, it means in a value page is 1, this condition is true, no, they won't print this. But when you reach the page number 5th, then the condition is true, then they print this. Okay, so in this case essay will print only once when the page number and variable value is 5. But in this case I also want to do a break. When the page number 5, then they print it, this will print, but they will break the while loop. In this case, guys, by will won't print. The same concept I explained you today in the for loop. Else with while and the for loop only work when this entire block of code runs successfully without any block. If you ask a while loop to run 10 times, then after they run 10 times only, and when they reach to false, okay, when they reach to false, then only else will run. Same thing I explained in the for loop also. But this is, guys, also one concept of while loop. But I normally compare while loop with the if and else condition, because while loop say till the time you give me true, I will run my block of code. If you give me false, I will run the else. Or maybe if I don't have any else, I can go to my next statement. Okay, this is what, guys, I normally compare. But otherwise, mostly anything that you want to do with if, anything you want to do with for or while, same thing you can use. Sometimes you can use if, sometimes you can use for, sometimes you can use while. But okay, my suggestion would be, okay, whenever you have this kind of requirement, okay, where you have lots of data, and you have requirement, okay, I want to pick one data, then do something, pick second data, do something, pick third data, do something, till all the data completed. Okay, and where sometimes you don't know how much or how many data you have. Okay, your data might come from your list, data might come from files. So every line in a file is a data might come from networking, right? So a lot of network packets is coming, I don't know how many packets gonna come up. data come from a database, I don't know how many records they have. Like I show you all the example in the future. In any of these cases, when a lot of data is coming, you want to do something in every data one by one till the data completed, and we don't know mostly when the data completed, how many data packets gonna come up, how much result is going to append in the real time. In any of these cases, right, for loop is the best choice to use. Somehow we can do while loop also, but by writing the while loop, we have to write a lot of extra code to make the thing work for us. But for loop is very intelligent than Python. So they know how to iterate through all the data one by one, and they know when this data completed without telling to the for loop. Okay, but when you have fixed thing, I want to do this thing 10 time only, 20 time only, 30 time only. Okay, in those cases, while loop is great to use, where we can write some kind of something like this. I would have start from 1 until 10 I want to do. Or maybe I have a requirement that I have a list, and in the list I don't know how many data we have, but I want to pick only top 10 data or top 2 data. Okay, so when we have some fixed limit that you know already, is already declared, right? You know already, then we can do with for loop. I'm not saying you can't do, but writing the logic with the while loop makes more sense. Okay, so you can think, guys, this is how also we work in the real world. I say keep on doing this till you reach to 10 kilometer. Do this 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer, 3 kilometer. So like a limit, we set the limit, and logically, the way you use your language, whatever language you use, Hindi, English, or other language, this is how we say, and whatever you say, how you think, convert in the code, that will more logically, So if how you think, the way you create the code, then creating the code won't be a big deal for you, a big challenge for you. Okay, so always try to create a code like a human being rather than a pure typical computer machine kind of code, right? So if you really want to create a code with the logic, so typically when I work in any programming language, I will never have, guys, any fixed plan of writing the code. Even though if you guys go to many of the other Python training or any other language training, for example, recently I'm going to deliver one more very advanced training called JavaScript. Okay, so maybe I will take the same example of while loop, but my flow will be very different, my code syntax will be very different. Okay, logic will be very, very different. Okay, because I never prepare the flow. I always go with the current natural flow. As the idea comes in mind, as a human being, I keep on writing the code step by step in the same way, rather than pre-planned, a fixed, typical orthodox kind of syntax. Okay, and if you do this, then working and solving any problem in the real world, maybe in the competition world, or maybe solving any problem in the real industry, would be, you see, so much simple for you, because you practice your natural flow of human being, and same practice you are performing in the coding world. Okay, that's one very important, guys, recommendation I can give from my side. And you see, guys, without memorizing, without practicing a lot, because a lot of guys say you have to practice and practice and practice. More you practice, more you become specialized in the programming world. I don't recommend this in most of the cases, because practice means you are trying to memorizing the syntax or memorizing the fixed standard practices. Like in Hindi normally we say ratification, right? So that's what actually happen if you try to understand properly. It means if any new scenario come up, very different scenario come up, however long you practice in this world of coding, you will 100% stuck. Okay, so that's what I normally I can give a recommendation from my side in this way. Okay, so I think I given the explanation of while and for loop. Both we can use alternative, but always go with the flow. Okay, and I give the idea when to use what. Now let me take one more topic here, guys. We have a lot of data types available and data structures available. As we progress, as we need, I will keep on explaining to you. Okay, right now I would have to explain you one more data structure that look more like list. Okay, that is called tuple. Okay, but before I explain the tuple, even though it's simple, but I don't want to explain you the typically way we have exist in the world. I want to go very more deep into this, and for this I would have to explain you first some other concepts. So I'm coming to this topic called tuple as one data structure like a list. Some obviously there are some difference, but what is this? Before this I want to explain some other concepts, right? And this concept is very useful and very powerful, guys. So try to understand this concept in the way I'm explaining to you. It's again the internals of the Python. And very limited training, guys, in the Python you will see this kind of concept, right? So technically, whenever you guys create a program, mostly program means you write a program in a file. And how you write a code, line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4. Okay, let's say one of the code may be x equals to 5. Okay, and then you save the code, then this file is there in your hard disk. Okay, but when you double click and execute the file, I guys told you yesterday also, this file will load on the top of your memory, that is called RAM. Okay, and in the RAM they will occupy some space. Okay, some space. So in the RAM they take some space from the RAM or main memory, and this part when this program is running are known as process. And who execute this statement on the top of RAM? Obviously they will take the help from CPU. CPU is the one who operate the thing for us. Okay, for example, if I do 5 plus 7, who will do this calculation? 5 plus 7 and give the rest output 12. CPU is the one. Okay, but where this statement, or also known as some expression, they store inside this process on the RAM. So guys, we will also go more deep into this process in upcoming discussion, like stack memory, heap memory, and some more thing in some time, but that is not so much important right now. Okay, the important point is if you talk about this portion, if you relatively try to zoom this portion over here. Okay, so what happened? Okay, RAM is a guy's physical device. It's a physical device, and in this device, how they store data is again, that is not again very important. I don't want to discuss that point. But RAM, guys, internally they have multiple different small part. Okay, every part, let's say, is having the size of 1 byte in size. This is 1 byte space. This is 1 byte space. This is 1 byte space. You can think it's like a car parking slot in some mall, and every big parking we divide into multiple small part. Okay, let's say 1 square feet or 10 square feet. Okay, for 1 car parking. You can think in this way. Okay, or I can say I can explain in this way. In the one big parking, we have a 1 square feet area, 2nd square feet area, 3rd square feet area, 4 square feet area. And what the car parking guys have done, so they plan that for parking the car, I want this entire slot. Okay, this is 4 square feet become 1 slot or 1 segment, I can say. Okay, so making 1 2 3 4 square feet. Okay, I need, and this square feet I can use for 1 car parking. So this is 1 car parking slot I have. Similarly, I will pick next 4, 1 2 3 and 4. Okay, and now combining this 4 space, they draw some line, not real area they have, but they draw some line. Okay, and say between this line we have 1 more car slot. So slot number 1, this is car slot number 2. Okay, so technically, if you try to understand here, this parking is like your real RAM device. It's like a real land in your mall. This 1 square feet area is a real space, physical space you have. Okay, but what they have done, they draw some line over here. Just like draw, it's not real exist, but they draw some line and say this is my area, 1 car. Okay, so this line is like is not really exist, It's not really physical exist, so I can say there's a logical area for one slot. Okay, even though we can discuss more about memory, but this much information is enough. So why I'm saying this point right now here is, okay, whenever guys you store any data, okay, how this statement, you know, the meaning of this statement is, especially the meaning of equals to is, equal to meaning in the programming world is, we are asking our program, in our case Python, that I need some space from a parking slot for parking my car. And here the car is 5. 5 is actually real car. Okay, a real car. I want to park my 5 in the parking slot. Okay, and whichever slot you're parking, every parking slot has number, slot number 1, slot number 2, basement 1, basement 2 1, 2 2, something like this. Okay, whichever parking slot you park the car, okay, every parking slot has a number associated, so that we can search in the future. If we ask somebody in this parking manager, for example, I say where is the parking slot number 2, we can we can pick our car, something like this. Okay, so this slot is what is a one kind of reference, I can say, in which slot area my car has been stored. Okay, and this reference, guys, is this X. Okay, so typically this X is a variable, but typically the better word instead of the variable, we can use variable as a word, but better word can be reference. And there's one more reason why we use the word reference here, and in some minute I will tell you. Okay, but what this reference contain is, reference contain the area, the slot number. In the RAM world, this area slot number is normally known as the address. That's called memory address. So they maintain the memory address, which area, which memory address they store, because every address has some number. For example, maybe this number maybe let me use the word memory number 1, memory number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So what this X contain? They say at memory number 1, from where the slot number 1 by chance start, okay, is the one I reserve this entire 1 till 4 slot. Let's go 4 bytes. 1 square feet is equal to 4. 1 square foot means 1 byte. So 4 byte I consume completely for my 5, because 5 is a bigger car. I need at least 4 square feet area. I need 4 bytes together, and all the 4 bytes become together one area, one slot. Okay, for this. So finally, what I'm trying to tell you guys here is, whenever you use any programming language, every programming language use this kind of syntax. Okay, and depend upon your data, or I can say depend upon your data type. In my case, this is the integer data type. They reserved your space in the memory, fixed space. This is 5, this is a car, this is a motorcycle, this is a truck. Depending on the size, they reserve your space in the memory. Okay, so example, if this is a truck, they will reserve 8 square feet area. This is a motorcycle, there is a 2 square feet area. If this is a car, there is a 4 square feet area. Similarly, in the programming world, if this is a integer, there is a 4 square feet area, 2 bytes, 4 bytes. If they are a decimal, they reserve 8 bytes. If they are character, there is a 1 byte space, depending on how much they need. But it's fixed number they store due to some lot of regional performance reasons. Okay, so technically every programming language has a different size. Okay, but in the Python, this is almost fixed. Whichever data type you use, okay, they reserve and give 4 bytes space. Okay, in one go. It means one slot, okay, of 4 byte. Physically, RAM doesn't know give 4 byte. RAM actually give 1 byte only, 1 byte only, 1 byte. So 1, 2, 3, 4 bytes they give you or reserve for us. okay, for our data to be stored. And whichever slot they reserve and whatever for area they reserve, they give the slot name, and this name is known as X. Very rough explanation, but again, we are not in the pure memory classes, okay, or not in the such as data DSA classes. Normally in my data DSA classes, I take this topic very detailed and show you also logic open everything, every part in very detail. But that much information is enough just to give further reference in my programming concept. Okay, so I'm not going more deep, but this much enough information is enough. So technically, what I'm trying to tell you here is, in Python, whatever data type you use, they have reserved 4 byte space for us. I'm not discussing, guys, what is bytes. I believe this might, you guys might know. So there's very basic thing about any computer world. But 4 byte they reserved. Okay. It means if I say x equals to 5. Okay, this 5 is a data, think like a car, stored in my RAM somewhere here, for example. Okay, but before they store here, this equals to is a symbol. They ask, I need 1, 2, 3, 4 bytes space totally, as a one memory small segment totally for storing this 5. But wherever you give this space to me, okay, the first area has some address. This is, let's say, address number 101. This is called physical address or the memory address. Okay, give to me, and this number I will store in the X. So X normally contain your memory address where they store. Why? So in the future I have lots of parking slots in my car parking. So in the future, I ask my parking slot manager or parking manager and say, I'm looking for the parking slot number 2, can you guide me where it is? So they guide me that you will find the parking slot somewhere here. So I will reach here, and whatever car I have or whatever data I have, I can go and read or change. Same thing in the Python also, and any other programming language also. In the future, when you want to use the X, for example, I want to print. So you normally contact your programming language and say, I don't know what data we have, but I know X. It means I know my address of my parking slot or my memory segment. Can somebody help me to reach there so I can read the data? So guys, every programming language has the manager called memory manager. We go to any programming language, so they have the manager called memory manager or memory management internal drivers. So Python also have the memory manager called Python memory manager. Python memory manager, PMM, right? So what they do, it is again running behind the scene. You don't have to do anything here. But whenever you run anything, like I want to print X, so you internally contact to Python memory manager and say, I know X, I know my pointer, I know my pointer means my address of the memory. Can you guide me where it is? Because RAM is very big, lots of slots they have. I don't know where it is, so take me there so I can retrieve my data, edit my data, use my data. I can do something like this. So this is how, guys, it works. Even though if you search here Python memory management, okay, so they have a Python memory management programs. Okay, Python memory manager, PMM. Okay, this is how they do. Oh, that's a very interesting animation. No thanks. Okay, so this is what, guys, they do behind this. That much enough knowledge is enough right now to understand the main concepts. Okay, so guys, what I explained to you at not as such not a part of such programming language world, but you should know this as a very high level knowledge perspective. Okay, so why I'm explaining this point to you, because there are a lot of reason behind it. By knowing this concept, you can understand why in Python it is known as references, what list will do, and what exactly different will list and the tuple. I can explain you very well. So for example, come back to my main code here. Okay, for example, let's say I have the X is one variable here with 5. Okay, when I run this line, this is so powerful line, even though guys I had given you one task yesterday. Okay, when you run any code, your data will load on the RAM, and I ask you just try to find some way how we can read the entire RAM. If you're really able to read it, what guys I'm trying to show you with the diagram, you can see it in the real way. We see there's a lot of data on the RAM with different areas, different addresses we have, and all the data is there some in somewhere on the RAM in their entire slots. So everything you can see there. Okay, if you know how to read the RAM. But right now, okay, what this equals to do, they give 4 byte space to this X, to this for storing this data. This is one point. Second point is, okay, second point here is this X, what they store actually the memory address. Okay, memory address means technically according to this logic, okay, they store the parking slot number, where the parking slot number is, where they start. Or we have 101, for example, which memory the data is stored. How can you see this? So there's one function in the Python called ID. With the help of ID, you can see your memory address. So right now in my current system RAM, this is the memory address we have where this data is stored. So if I know how to read my RAM, I can go to this address and I can see my data 5 there. Okay, and normally guys, your operating system normally present the memory in hexadecimal, and guys by default ID command give the memory address in decimal number. Okay, so sometimes they are confusing, so we can convert this decimal into hexadecimal. What is hexadecimal you guys might know very quickly. Let me tell you. We have binary number, there's value 0 1. So a decimal number that mostly we human being work from 0 1 to till 9. Similarly, we have multiple number system. One of the number system is hexadecimal. Mostly this number system is used by your memories. Okay, where the total number here is 2, here the total number is 10, and hexadecimal the total number is 16. And how we write? We have something like this. First number is 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 is not 10 here. Okay, after 9 A come, then B, C, D, E, and F. So to 16 if we count, okay, this is the hexadecimal we have. For example, in the binary, first is 0, then 1. After 1 and 0, next number will be 1 0, then 1 1. Like in decimal, after 0 to 9, after 9 what we write? 1 0, 1 1, 11, 12, 13. Similarly, in the hexadecimal, after F, the next number would be 1 0, then 1 1, 1 2, till 1 9. After 1 9, it become A0. So this is what hexadecimal is. So again, you are not in the number system classes, but this is very quick thing you guys might know. So we have a function called hexadecimal of 5 decimal 5 only. But this hexadecimal, how I know? Hexadecimal start by 0x. So any number start by 0x, normally in a programming world, it means that hexadecimal. So hexadecimal of number 9, decimal number 9 is 9 only. But the hexadecimal of 10. So 10 is a decimal number. I want to convert the hexadecimal. The hexadecimal 10 is A. 15 is F. After 15, hexadecimal 16 is 1 0. This is what I'm trying to explain you here. So I'm just giving this information, nothing very useful right now, but I'm going to use it in some small place here. So technically, by default, ID command give the memory address where this 5 data is stored in the decimal notation. But normally, if you want to work something in the operating system and ask operating system somehow, can you tell me the memory address and can you show me the data of this memory address, something like this. So they always talk in a language called hexadecimal number system. So what can I do? I can convert this data into hexadecimal by using this function called hex. So this number will look like something like this, but they convert into hexadecimal. Hexadecimal. Okay, this one. But this address is the same. This is the decimal notation and this is the hexadecimal notation. Okay, this is one thing. Now second thing guys here is that you should know, that is very unique interesting thing about the Python. is because guys, whenever you run a program, whenever you run the program, okay, program will load your data on the top of your RAM. RAM is a real device, come with some price, even though they are very costly compared to hard disk that you guys know. And RAM is mostly are very much limited. For example, in my laptop we have 16 GB RAM or 8 GB RAM or 2 GB RAM. Okay, so it again depend upon your programming language to programming language how they are going to arrange and organize and save your memory. Okay, for example, if I run a code in the Python, they take some space from my RAM. Let's say this space. So let's say out of 16 GB, they take 10 MB space. Who? My process. When the program run, process start, they take 10 MB space. Okay. How much space they consume? You can see your task manager. For example, if I run my task manager, from this I can check how many processes are running. Okay, and how many memory they are consuming. For example, this is the process tablet is running, right, or MongoDB is running. Right now they are consuming 12.8 MB space. So you can use a task manager, or you can use PS command in Linux if you know, or Mac you know. So they will tell you how much memory is used by this process. Similarly, if I run my Python code also, okay, and till the Python process running, the name will be displayed here, and you can see how much memory they are using right now. So nothing very technical, you guys might know this. Okay, so let's say my program, when I run, it become process, and process is consuming 10 MB space. Okay, now in this context, in this 10 MB space, okay, who is using this space? Mostly this space is consumed by your data. Okay, like data would be in this case, let's say 5, or maybe data may be 1 page, or data may be these strings, or this list variables is also data, right? Means data of the variable is also, or data of the list is also data. Okay, but where this data located in the RAM, so in the future we can use, so your variables know it. How they know where data is stored? With their memory address, and how to find, that's what I explained to you already by this. Okay, it means when I use print function X, they print the data. How? Because print function until you find the memory address, and they go to this memory address and retrieve the data and show to you. Okay, but to manage a program, okay, if you want to manage the memory in the program, because if you have a program and that the program use huge data, then you will need more memory. Maximum memory you can use more, you can't more than 16 in my case. But if you have some program that needs maybe 100 GB memory, you to enhance or increase your RAM size, you to buy more RAM. So technically what I want to tell you here is, finally what I'm to tell you here is it all depend upon your language to language, how they are organizing the data in the memory. What Python is doing for this, Python makes and save a lot of memory for us. What they do, if you store data called 5, example I'm giving here, and this data is been created by a variable called X, a variable called Y, something like this. So I have one variable called X, they store 5. I have one variable called Y, they're also having 5. There's one variable called Z, they're also having the 5. Technically for us, these are 3 independent variables with their own data. But by chance, all the data is 5. So what they do behind the scene, in the memory, in the RAM, they are only consuming one single space for the 5. Okay. And this single space, they only store 5 only once, and all the variables, they will map to the same space. X is also connect to this, Y also connect to this, and Z is also connect to this. So they are pretty smart, right? They see, whenever they see same kind of data, rather than they consume extra space, create one more copy of it. Okay, rather than they create one more copy of it, what they do, okay, all the variable who are using the same data, they will give and connect to the same memory address. Okay, and that is the reason, guys, X is also connected to 5, Y is also pointing to 5, Z is also pointing to the address of the 5. Let's say 5 is stored at the address number, parking stall number 101. All the guys are pointing to the same address. And if more than one variable is pointing to the same address, they are mostly known as references. So Y is a reference X, Z is a reference to Y, Z is a reference to X is a reference to Y. You can use in this way. So if you guys know C and C++, there also guys a concept called references. Same concept. In the C and C++, we have to create this reference by ourselves by writing something. But in the Python, it is a by default nature of the Python. Internally in the Python, they create a references for us. Okay, it means technically they look like a different variable, but if you see the address of X, okay, if you see the address of Y, and if you see the address of Z, they are exactly the same memory address. Even though we created 3 variables, but internally they won't create 3 different memory areas to store 5 3 times. Look, all the data same and same. Okay, so they only store 5 once time, and when we get Y one more time, okay, one more time, they say this data is already there at the address, so there is no reason to create 5 one more time. let's directly store the address of 5 that's there in the X. Just take it from there. Okay, so this is one of the thing Python do behind the scene, is somehow managing and saving your memory addresses or memory space. Okay, if you maybe in some program I want to store hello as a string 1 million time. Okay, let's say for storing one hello I need 1 MB space. So 1 MB into 1 million, that much space, unwanted waste, right? So in this context, they are using hello only once, and all the remaining millions time when they are using hello, they were pointing to the same space or same references. So this is a by the behavior of the Python, and that is a reason. Okay, X variable is a different variable, Y is a different variable, but for Python perspective they are same, because they are having the same address. And that is the reason we have is keyword in the Python. Is the one who check does both the variable name is different, but are pointing to the same memory address or same car parking slot. The example I explained to you, answer yes, true. But let's say if I store one variable T, let me do data 10. Obviously this is a different data, they will give a different memory address for this. It's different and this is different. So say thus address of T and X is same. They are pointing to different addresses. Okay, and most probably they have different data obviously there, so they are false. So is a keyword who check the memory addresses or the references of both the variables. If they're same, they should give true, and otherwise they will false. Sometimes is also somewhere useful. I'll show you some example in the future classes or topic. Is also sometimes useful in checking some condition to do something. Okay, but is a keyword for checking does this value variable are same or not. Okay, so there's one point I want to explain you right now. Now based on this concept, I want to tell you one powerful concept, very interesting and very important. Okay, if you don't know this, there will be chances you can do multiple. You write a code and the code might corrupt. Okay, so just try to focus in this example very properly. For example, I have a list of students' names. Okay, or maybe IDs. Let's say one ID will be 1111. Okay, or let me use the ID. Let's say name called Jack. Okay, some name we have, other name Pop, other name let's say Vimal, my name, and other let's say Krish. Okay, so technically this is a number of data we have. So technically if you talk about the RAM perspective, okay, so this data will store something like this. So from entire car parking, if you take the same example, car parking means your entire RAM. In this RAM we take one card slot, complete slot for storing jack. Next card slot I will take to storing pop. Next card slot I will take for storing Vimal. And let's say one card slot is taking 4 byte space, 4 byte space, 4 byte space, and 4 byte space. And next card slot will take for Krish 4 byte space. Okay. So this is, guys, one of the beauty of the list is, okay, when you create a list with 4 different values or 4 different data, technically there are 4 different data, right? And we organize data in a list for just to organize purpose. I told you yesterday. Okay, but internally, because this is list, so one, your programming language, guys, make sure if this is list, okay, and guys, list is a concept actually based on a normal concept called array, right? And what is the beautiful thing of the array is, when you create an array means a list of data. Okay, they always give a continuous parking slot, one after another. They want to skip, they will give continuously. Jack will be stored, pop will be stored after Jack, then Vimal, then Chris, they will store continuously. So continuous memory location. Continuous, they give the memory allocation. They allocate the memory, all the list, right? Or also as array continuously. And why? There's a lot of extra performance benefit you gain. Right now I'm not discussing, but yeah, when you guys discuss more about memory management and when you learn more about proper way to writing the algorithm, like in DSA classes, that kind of discussion we discuss a lot there, but again we don't require. But this one thing they do behind the scene. Okay, but interesting thing is, okay, this guy has their own memory address, let's say is 100, and after 100, after 4 byte 104 pop will store, after 4 byte 108 Vimal store, after 4 byte 112 Chris will store. Okay, but this is a continuous, and that is a reason, guys, in this variable this number will store. So name is a variable, or I can say reference, what it consume, what is stored, they store the address of first one. Okay, and because we know the first one, remaining we can calculate very easily. If you want to retrieve Vimal, I know 1, 2, 3 place, 100 multiply with, add with 12, we can reach here, or add, we can reach here. So something like this happening behind this. Again, something like this happening behind the scene, right? Now, why I'm explaining this point to you, finally I want to tell you here is, okay, a name is a variable, okay, but technically name is not actually storing your data. Data is actually storing in directly on the top of your RAM at some kind of the slots of 4 bytes. Why? Because Python give you 4 byte by default. By default means if data is bigger, they automatically increase the size to 8. If data become more big, they automatically increase the size to 12. This is by default nature of the Python again. Okay, but they store something like this. Okay, but this name variable doesn't store the data. They only store the address of the first one. Means they know, now they know the address of other guys also, because they are continuous. They don't randomly store here and there. If you want to store data randomly here and there, so normally in the programming world, we have a concept called linked list. I'm not discussing this point, okay, but this is one concept we have through which we can store data randomly in the RAM. Sometimes it's useful. Okay, but in the array, there's a concept, and list is based on the array. Okay, here data will store continuously. Technically, finally, I want to say you here is, if you have this variable and if you know the first address, you can find out all the data. That is the reason whenever you write names 0 means whatever data you have the first address, tell me. If I add 1 means whatever data you have first and second index position, okay, then give me. So technically behind this thing, they are doing some kind of mathematical calculation behind it. Okay, whatever you have the second person, I know second person will be after 4 bytes, they add 100 with 4, they will find this. So that's what kind of calculation they do behind the scene. Again, these are concepts not required. Why I'm explaining this to you, let's come to the main point. Okay, so finally names is just a just a variable, or I can say rather variables. It is a reference. It means it also they actually store the address. So this is the address. 224 is like 100 here. So this address, let's say, is 224, is stored in this reference. Okay. Now what happen if I create one more list of my same, let's say, students? Okay, in this way. So whatever data we have in the names, same data stored in the final. Typically it look like this is a different variable and this is a different variable. Sorry. Okay, but guys, this equals to means here this data that we have in the RAM, we are not copying one more time in the RAM. It look like okay, we have this big RAM, and we already have these list or array available in the RAM. List contain Jack, Pop, Vimal, Chris, Jack, Pop, Vimal, Chris. So when I do this operation, it look like we have copied one more time same data, Jack, Pop, Vimal, and Chris, and this is what my name variables is, and this is what my final variable is. It looked like this, but it's not, guys. It's not. Okay, how Python work behind the scene? Whenever you write, okay, final is one variable to names. It means technically names never contain any data. They only contain the address of this list, or I can say array, physical address of the memory. Okay, so when you write equals to, it means whatever the address in the RAM we have, we are sending to the final. It means final variable created, and they are again pointing to the same address wherever the name is pointing. They are not creating anything new for you. The data has not been copied one more time. Again, you can think as in terms of saving the space. Okay, so it look like two different variable, even both the guys are giving the same data. Okay, because they've been assigned in this way. This is called assign operator. Okay, this assign operator, normally in the other programming world, it is maybe you can use assign operator, but typically this operator in the Python is known as creating the reference. Reference means now the address of this guy and this guy are same address. Now what is the challenge here is, okay, it's not challenge actually, this is intentionally Python guys have done this, but challenge is if you those who don't know this concept, what happen now what happen, they feel this is a different variable altogether. So what they do, they will go to person number 2 and this value is Vimal, and maybe they might to change the Vimal with the Vimal full name. Let's say my full name is Vimal Daga. Okay, they feel they change in the person number 2 of final, and that has been changed also. But what happened, final has no separate copy of this data. Whatever you're doing with the final, actually updating in the same address over here, and same address been pointing by the name variables. So you think that you're changing the final, but they also change in your name variables also. See here, if I run the names without changing the name, it will update it. See here, updated. So in this context, this is very dangerous. So maybe you are a programmer, you think now this is the variables we have, name, and this variable we have setting some default password for all the account in my company. Okay, and then we will create some extra variable for it, final. Okay, and I am giving this variable name to my other team member and say, if you want to change some password, some name, go and change it. And what are the change here? They are maybe using in some internal system, and let's say this is the system, this data is being publicly accessible, for example. Okay, but whatever change in the internal system, you feel it is there internal, nobody can see it, but actually it's been visible to the entire public. because this variable maybe you are exposed to the entire public. I'm just giving a hypothetical example here, but this is our big challenge we have in this way. Okay, so point here is what I'm trying to tell you finally. The point here is whenever you assign any variable, normal variable or the list variable, okay, if you change anything, this particular variable, the way I explain you, it will also update your main one from where you started. Okay, so there is, in this context, is very dangerous. So it's not the bad thing, it's a good thing what Python has given to you, okay, given to you to save a lot of memory. Okay, and because it's very common thing, we create multiple temporary variables sometime to do some calculations, right? So there are also some programmer, what they do, they have the name variable and they create one more final variable like this. In most of programming languages, they create one more copy of it. Okay, and they get temporary final for a temporary purpose, but they create one more copy, so it will create a lot of unwanted extra space. Let's say this may be 2 GB space, so one more 2 GB space they create extra, and they waste a lot of memory. So in that context, this idea is very good. By chance, if somebody create this new, they won't create extra copy of it, they will work on the same data. But if those who are using Python, if you don't know this concept, then there's a lot of issues create depend upon the logic of the programming. Okay, so that is the reason I would like to tell you. And in this context, if you think your data is very critical, if anybody want create a new copy of it, and you don't want they change this data accidentally the way I change here. Okay, I'm repeating guys this point. Let's say this data is very critical. Okay, this data is very critical. Let me write again one more time. Okay, and your requirement is you have to create one more variable to provide this data. Okay, and you don't want by chance or accidentally or intentionally, nobody will go and change this final data, so they will also impact your actual data here. This got names. Okay, you don't want this. Actually, I changed the final, but they updated this one. I don't want this. Okay, so if you have this kind of use case, okay, this is a use case that I draw right now. In this use case, if you don't want this kind of issue come up by changing this, somebody changed my actual data for main variable that is been used by other way also. In this context, what can you do? You can make this list or this way of organized data in the list, okay, read only. Read only means right now, if you can change something on the data, it's called rewritable. Means we can change it. So by default, list is rewritable. But if you want to make the list read only, means nobody can change. And for this, we have one more data structure available for Python that is exactly like list. The only difference is that data structure is a read only. And to make a list read only, we can use this symbol, parenthesis. Okay, you just change the symbol. Now everything is exactly same, no difference. Names can all be printed. Final can also get the same thing. Okay, address of both the guys, if you see, names is final is also one way to check. Address are same of both the guys. Okay, but actually my names was read only. Okay, so that final is also read only. So in this case, if somebody by chance mistakenly or anyhow try to change my final data, it won't allow. They say it's not supported. You're assigning new data, it is not supported. It's not supported. So thing won't be corrupted the way you want to. What are the example last I showed you. So depending upon requirement, if you have this facility, you can make this data read only. Okay, this one thing. And in this context, if you want to convert your list into read only, then this data type is known as tuple. And guys, that is the difference between list and the tuple. The data type is called on a data type, I can say, because they're organized data, so I can say tuple is a one kind of data structure like a list. So difference between tuple and the list is, okay, if you want to create a list, okay, if you want to create tuple make your entire data organization read only, and technically read only in the programming world is known as immutable. You can change it, we can't change it. They make the data immutable. That's a right term to say. And if you use the list, okay, list would be like a rewritable. We can change it, we can edit, we can append, we can remove. Any operation of modification we can do here. Typically it's known as mutable. We can change it. Okay, this is a term we say, and that is, guys, they say tuple is not allowed. Okay, so this is the one great example and the use case of tuple and the difference. So guys, normally in the document of Python it said tuple is immutable, list is mutable, we can't change that and the tuple, we can change that and list, something like this. That's true, but very limited guys know the right use cases why we need this. Okay, why we need this. So that is, guys, I wrote this entire storyline from here. I start with memory and explain this way, so that you can understand the right use case, where to use, where not to use. Because if somebody say why we need a tuple, because I don't want to change anything, so we are the programmer, right? If you don't want to change in the program, don't change it. If you don't want to change, don't change write any code that will change something for you. So why you need tuple then? Okay, so my point and context here is I'm trying to explain you the right process. Okay, so this is the context. If you set in your mind, or the process you set in the mind, then you automatically understood, okay, I have a list, I don't want to change the list in the future. Okay, so, and somebody might use the reference the way I explained to you in this way, and they might corrupt my entire data. So in this context come up, then maybe some kind of sensitive data, password kind of data, okay, or something else maybe. Then better planning, organizing the data would be a list. Okay, so to explain the difference between list and tuple, I explain a ton more extra thing for you for extra knowledge perspective. Otherwise, all the operations that you do in the list, same thing you can do in tuple, you can do in the tuple. Okay, but only those operations that can't modify anything. For example, here these are the operations we can do in the tuple. Which operation? These operations, count and search. But there is no operation called append and delete, remove. So tuple is read only. We can only read the things, we can search the thing. That's what available. But otherwise, in the tuple we can do all the same operation. For example, start from 1 till 3. These operations is the same. In the tuple, we can say start from 1 this thing. So they print everything. So same operation we can perform, like slicing operator. We can do the for loop again same way. I want to put the name in I. So all the operation like this we can do exactly same with the tuple. Okay, and one thing to see the how we identify the tuple and the list. So list is we write in the square bracket, and tuple we normally write in parentheses. So this is one symbol we normally write to store the data. So if you have multiple data to store and organize the data, like a similar data, especially I can say name, ID, to organize a similar data, right? Then either we can use list or the tuple. This is read writable, mutable. This is read only, immutable. That's what we can use here. Okay, otherwise all the operation would be the same. Okay, this is one thing. So this is one. So let's do, guys, one thing. There's multiple concepts I explained to you here. Okay, then now I would like to move to one very important concept that is we use a lot, very frequently, even though especially when we try to draw an algorithms. That's called functions, right? And if you don't know function, nothing much you can do in any of the programming world, because classes and the remaining portions and maybe methods, everything is purely based on the functions, right? So after, let's go for a small break. After break, we will first directly start on how to write the functions and the best practices of the functions and all the different way we can write the functions and much more things. Okay, so let's go for a small break of 25 minutes. So according to my system, okay, we will continue with 14:25 IST time. Okay, we'll resume the break at this time. So see you guys in some time, around 24-25 minutes, and we'll continue with the next point. See you guys, take care. So guys, welcome back, and let's continue. So till now guys, we have discussed multiple different concepts, and most of the concept is very much specific to Python as a programming language. But whenever I pick any concept, I first explain you a general concept, means what is list, what is tuple, what is if condition, what is memory, okay, and how to use the these things, right? But then I also explain you how Python is well defined, and try to make the things very simple and very much sophisticated. So these are the few concepts guys I explained to you. Okay, now let's move to the next concept that is very much common in any almost in any of the programming language. So the idea would be something like this. Let's say we have some steps to be performed. So guys, we have, I think I'm just checking my network connectivity. From last, I think 4 to 5 minutes, I was out of the network connectivity that I feel. So let me again go through the same pointer. So right now guys, what I'm trying to explain you, I'm going to take one new topic that is very very important, and almost in every programming language we use a lot. The concept called functions. That's what. So what is the idea behind the function, right? We can think and understand the function in multiple way. One of the better way to understand the function is, let's say we have certain problem, okay, and to solve any problem, right, we have to use certain steps. Mostly the problem doesn't solve in one single step. Okay, so we will use step number one, then we move to next step and next step and next step, depend upon the problem to problem. Multiple steps you have to perform, and after writing and doing the right steps, finally what you will see, this certain problem can be solved. Okay, problem may be anything. If you try to relate with your real world, let's say you want to cook something, so there's some certain step. You have to buy some food first, then you have to clean the food, then go to kitchen and do something. So depend upon the problem to problem, multiple steps you have to perform. But again, depend upon the problem, your step will be done or will be different, or can be different, I can say. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you guys here is, if you have any problem and to solve that particular problem, whatever steps you write to finally solve this problem, those steps plugged together are known as algorithm. Means you can say that we have created this algorithm to solve this particular problem. Okay, but algorithm is just an idea. For example, if I say that I have a problem that I want to I want to buy something, or I want to see the movie. So watch the movie is you can think is a one problem, and or I can say my requirement, this may be better term, or this is my use case, maybe a more better term. So I can say I will do this step. I will first I'll take my mobile phone, go to the respective website, book the movie ticket, then I will drive to the cinema hall and then watch the movie. So multiple steps I have. Again, all the steps, if I have done, then my requirement is been solved, is to watch the movie. So all the steps is become your algorithm. But normally, guys, right now I'm just saying it. But you want to perform this algorithm, okay, and especially in the computers world, if you want to perform this algorithm, then this steps you have to write somewhere. Okay, step 1, step 2, all the steps you have to write somewhere. Okay, and then these steps you have to give some name. These are the steps. I can say this is the block of the step, right? And these steps you have to give us some name. Okay, so whatever name you give, let's say this blog, maybe I would like give the name as book a movie, for example. So if somebody asks you what this blog will do, what is the name of the blog, I say movie. And what this blog will do, when I go inside this blog, they will tell me the steps by step how to book the movie. So technically in the programming world, okay, this block is normally known as a function. Because function means who give functions to something. Function means who will give some functionality so that you can perform something. So technically, what I'm trying to tell you here is a function is a way through which you can solve something, you can do something. It will be anything, maybe small thing, you want to mail somebody, or you want to send an SMS, or you want to, you have some requirement that, let's say you have some data, you have to go to every data, and in this data you want to find some name, and after finding the name you want to send the mail, or you send some SMS notifications, whatever it would be. So for one requirement, to achieve one thing, okay, all those steps we can group together, plug together, put in one box. That's called block, or block of code, or suite of code also known as. Okay, and this block of code we can give some name. Then that name is, guys, normally known as function name. Okay, but you have to properly plan it. So wherever you create a block of code, you should know this block of code is solving something for you, it's doing something, solving one particular problem for you. Okay, so if you can solve one particular problem by some block of code, then this code and entire block of code is known as function. Okay, but same thing we had already done, right? Same thing if you see in our code, some of the problem we have solved. For example, if like one simple problem here, we'll make it very quickly. For example, this is one problem we have, and what this problem is doing, this is helping me to change my number from one number, and they make it power of 2. So this is also one problem we have. So somebody giving this information, and based on the information I write this statement 1, statement 2, statement 3, multiple steps I write in order to achieve my goal. And my here goal is very simple and single goal we have, that is I want to power my output. Okay, so does this a function? I can say yes, this is a function, but to make it more clear and crisp, I can say function normally we would like to put in the box also. What I mean by this, in the future, if somebody say you want to again run the same code, you can type again, you have to again type it and again run it. Okay, so normally, guys, you have to identify in such a way that whatever the common thing that you have to keep on doing again and again. If you think this is what you have to do only once, okay, then you can type the code directly in this way and run it. But if you think same thing, powering the 2 of sending the mail, sending the WhatsApp, this is a very common thing you have to do again and again. Okay, rather than this, type this code again and again in your main file, doesn't make any sense. It will increase the code, and also wasting your time. Okay, so what can you do? This entire block you can put, entire code you can put in one big block, like a curly braces. So from here we block start and a block close, and this block you can give some name. Let's say the block name will be maybe power, for example, or my power. Give some block a name. Okay, so what the beauty of this block, now if you want to type this code again, you don't have to type the entire code again. I can just give the block name where somewhere here. When I type this entire block, I will give this block name here. Okay, so in simple term, if you want have certain steps to be performed, okay, and this step is something doing for you also, there's also one way to think. Okay, I want to run this certain step again and again. I don't know when, but we might need it because a lot of guys sometimes confuse the function with a loop also. Loop, if you use for loop or the while loop, it means I'm pretty sure I want to run this block 10 times or 100 times. But this is not our requirement. Our requirement is I have this lines and steps of or block of code I want to run in the future. I don't know when, but whenever I need, I want to run it. In that case, I don't want to type this block of code again or this step again. So that easy reason, this block of code you can put in this block and give this block a name, and this name is known as your function name, and this entire box is called function. Now that is the idea of the function. Okay, but in the Python, if you want to create a function, so we have a one keyword called def. Def means we are defining the function. You can give a function any name. Okay, and you guys know in the Python, any block of code you don't write in the curly braces. Instead of curly braces, what you do, you normally give the intent. That's all, guys. This is how you can create the function. Okay, but again, in the Python, you guys know this keyword we always write close with colon. And because this my power is a function name, due to some reason, every function name, guys, when you define, you write a parenthesis. Why you write parenthesis in some minute I will explain to you. Okay, this is how we can create the function. Okay, now whenever you want to use this function or want to run this code, now you don't have to type this code again and again. What you can do, you can go in your code somewhere and you want to run this code at some point in time. You can ask, I have already defined my function somewhere. I don't want to type all the hundreds and thousands of lines of code. I would like to run it, but here, so in this case, you can write this symbol, and by this symbol, you can asking wherever this function is, I want to run it, and this is called call. You can call the function. Okay, you can call the function and you get the output. Okay, let me print the output here only. Okay, so in this function, I'm going to also writing the print called output. Okay, so when we call the function, we can get the output whatever it's been printed here. Okay, so I explain you function. I could explain you function in simplest way also. Okay, the simplest way would be more look like this, that I have multiple lines of code, print hi. Okay, I have this code with me. 1 minute. Okay, I have x equal to 5, then print x. Okay, and I want to run this code again and again whenever I want. Even though if I run my code right now, they print everything, but I don't want to run right now. In the future, I want to run. So this entire code I can put in one block, and that block is called function. You can give any name with parenthesis, colon, and this would be your function. Now, because this function, the beautiful thing is, right now if you run, it won't run it. We just define it. That is the reason we use the keyword called define. We define this, I want this. Whenever we want. So in the future, you will do something, and when you want to run this code, you can call this function, or you can ask this function to run. That point in time, this function will run with the print hi and the So function would be, if a block of statement or block of code, if you put in one box, that is called function. And benefits would be, you don't have to write this code again and again. You don't have to repeat. Repeat means you don't have to rewrite your code again and again. Whenever you want to call, you can call it. And a lot of guys sometimes has a confusion. This is not like a loop. Loop also doing same thing, same code they are repeating. But in the loop, you have to fix it 10 times, 20 times. That much time you fix, they will run for you that point only. But in the function, this code, I can call, let's say I would like to do some other code, I will type something, then I do something else, and I feel I have to call this function again. Whenever we need, we can call, and that lines of code will run for you. So the simplest way you can understand, but I want to explain you in this way. Why? Because normally the right use case of function is to solve certain point or certain problem. Okay, this function is not doing any logical thing for us. Okay, mainly whenever you're planning to create a function, you need to think that they are solving something, that they are doing anything for you. Second thing you have to think about, okay, does this functionality or this thing will keep on repeating in the future? So we need this code again and again in the future. If this criteria match, then that is right. That would be the better time to create the function. Otherwise, if you create this way also, that's okay. There's nothing technical wrong. But because in the real world you have to write a huge code, so planning and the managing and organizing the code is also very important. So in that perspective, having the proper plan of the function is very important. For example, that's what I have done here. So maybe I had a requirement in the future. The requirement would be something like this. I want to do this thing again and again. Okay, so this is the one who is solving one problem. The problem would be they are squaring it, and I know my requirement is this is what I want to do again and again in the future. So that is the reason I put the entire code in one function. Okay, when I run this right now, it won't run, but whenever I need, I can call this function by the name with the symbol. What the symbol will do, I will explain you in a minute, but they will run for you. Maybe in the afterwards also, I would have run here also. I can again call, again run it. Okay, whenever I call, they will do the thing, whatever steps has been defined. Okay, so idea would be, again, if I come back to this page, whenever I want to do something as a problem, you just define the steps, maybe it's some pen and paper, maybe in your mind, what are steps you perform, you create it, in maybe in the pen and paper, maybe in the mind. Those steps are known as algorithm. Why I say the algorithm? Because they are the one who solve some problem. They will do something for you. Okay, and this algorithm or the idea, if you want to perform from the computers, then this algorithm can be converted in a code with the help of function. Okay, so anything that is can see here in the code is called function, but idea is called algorithm. So technically algorithm and function is the same kind of thing. Process, plan, solving thing is algorithm, and when you write those process into a code, then they are known as function. Otherwise, technically it means function and algorithm is almost the different term used in different areas, but all logically they are same. Okay, this is one thing. Now based on this discussion, guys, okay, we'll discuss more about this, what I'm trying to tell you here, but let's talk some more about function and how to use it. Okay, so let's say I have a function here. Okay, and let's say my plan is something like this. I have x equals to 5, y equals to 10, and I want to add this number, put in the z, and I want to print the z. So these are steps I have, but I don't want to write and run right now. But if you run your program, they will run for you. But if you requirement that you don't want to run right now, so in that is also one of the contexts we can put this guy into a function. Let's say Linux world function. Okay, and this is a block of code, so you have to properly indent it. In this case, we put in the function block, it won't run. Now whenever you call, it will run for you. Okay, but guys, sometime, okay, you have to create a function that is a very much flexible function. Flexible means now when I call this function anytime in the future, they always give me output 15. Always 15. Sometimes it may be useful. Okay. Maybe this function, what the duty of this function, when I call the function, they will go somewhere in my website and download my mobile number. Okay, and that mobile number they print here. So always guys, they will always give the mobile number only. So in this case, this kind of function is good. But in this particular example, what I want to do a sum, okay, but not 5 and 10. Here, whoever calls this function, I want to give them the flexibility. They will decide what they want to sum. So they can send the number, I want to sum of 6 and I want to sum of 7. Okay, so whoever call this function, whoever use this functionality, they decide what number they want to do sum. Right now in this case, if I run, it will fail. Okay, why is fail? So for this, there's one small concept here. Okay, one small concept here. Whenever guys, if you try to store any data in programming world, your data is always stored in some of the variable. Without variable, you can't store the data, and without variable, you can't use the data anywhere. Okay, what I mean by this, right now 6 and 7 is a data. Okay, and I want to use this data somewhere. Where I want to use this data in this function. So whenever you are giving some data, you need some variable where you can store this data, and this variable you have to write somewhere here. Let's say I and j. So whenever we call this function, so whenever we create the function, that time you have to plan that I want this function to be a little flexible. Anybody from outside world who will use this function, they will send some data to me, and first data I store in I, second data I will store in a variable called j. So it means 6 is stored in I and 7 is stored in j. Okay, and guys, here these variables are known as variables, but typically these variables in the functional world are known as argument. Here we created 2 argument. Why? Because my plan is to take 2 input from the users who want to use me. And get that was the error coming up. They say function takes 0 argument because initially here 0 and you are giving 2 inputs, we don't have any way to store. Now if I run this function, now in this case if I run this function here, there is no error come up. So 6 finally stored in I, 7 finally stored in j. But now it is your choice what you want to do with I and j. So do you want to print I? You want to print I, print it. So what you want to do with I, that will be your choice. So they print the value of I. Or you don't want to print it, maybe your requirement will be you want to replace the value of I with I and 10 with j. Because my motto is whatever value I pass here is stored in x, whatever value I pass here is stored in y. We can sum it so that we can give the output file. Now in this case, now this function has become very much flexible. Now whatever data we pass, the function will give the sum. So this is what a function I created, because according to our requirement, maybe in my code, there's a lot of cases we're gonna come up where I want to find the sum. So sum is the one problem we have, and we have find out the steps of the sum, the first step, second step, and third step, fourth step, and we know if I write these steps, I got my final sum. So this is my algorithm, and convert my algorithm in this code, and this code I give it the name, and this name is called function. Okay, so this function is meant for one thing. What? They will give the sum. Now we are flexible. Whenever we call the function, that time we can pass this value, and accordingly we get the sum. Okay, and that is a reason, guys, why in the function we write a parenthesis, so that we can pass these values. Okay, this is one thing. And second thing is, guys, logically when you are passing a value, it is the one we decided. For example, I am the user Vimal. I decided I want to find a sum of 9 and 8. I decided. So 9 and 8 will be sum. Or because I decided, so there is no meaning to change this value. Whatever I decide, accordingly to perform it. Okay. So that is the reason, guys, the syntax will be more look like tuple. You know, tuple, we store the data in some way, in this way. 9 and 8. What is this? It's tuple. Okay, so we see, let's say I store the data in R variable, and if you see the type of it, here is tuple. And why I'm explaining this tuple point again here, because in some minute it will help us in a minute. So technically I can say whatever data you pass. Okay, so yes, 6 is the data you pass, 7 data you pass. Whenever you pass any data on which you want to work something on, okay, this data is mostly known as parameter. So I am passing 2 variable, also 2 data or 2 parameter. This parameter stored in my variable are known as normally argument. Okay, but because I am passing this data, I want according to this data they have to perform it. So internally in the function they will send as a tuple perspective. They will go as a tuple. So what is use of? So why I'm saying tuple here, because something extra we can do by this. What and how I'll explain in a minute. But typically this is called two argument function because we have two argument here. Okay, and because we have two argument, it means if you call a function without any parameter, they fail. There's a function need two arguments, I and j, but you haven't passed anything. So if you try to give any number like 5, they say function need 2, but you only send 1. So because we define a function with a function name and say 2 argument need, it means anybody who use this function, they have to pass 2 argument. Is a compulsory, not less than 2, not more than 2. For example, you try to pass more, they fail. The function only accept 2 argument, but you pass 4, so they fail. You have to pass exactly the same thing. So technically this line is known as signature. So function signature. Signature means, okay, the function say if anybody won't use me, you have to give my name and they have to give these 2 value of this argument or variables. If anybody follow the signature or this pattern, then only I work, otherwise I won't work. Okay, this also some term you can use here. Okay, now let me add some more point here in this area. That's whenever you create a function, okay, mostly there's a scenario, right, when you want to create a function, okay, the function will perform something for you, okay, but whoever call this function, let's say I want to sum, let's say 7 and 7. So I am the one who calling this function, okay, but maybe I want to sum 7 and 7, but this output I want to store in some variable. I don't want to print here, okay, because maybe sometime function will get some important data from maybe some secret data and password. I don't want my function will print it. Okay, so if you don't want function will print it, don't write the print here. Comment this. That's all. Okay, so when I run this function, they won't print here. But finally they submit, and this the value is shown in the z. But what I want, what I want here, when my function will submit, they will give me the output so that I can store in some variable here. That's why. This is my requirement. Okay. In this case, my function will sum 7 and that is become 14. They give the output in z, and now in this case, if you try to see the value of y, nothing come up. Nothing, guys. If you see, nothing come up. Okay. So maybe let's try with print. Now when this call this function, they give the 10, and when I run this function, its output will be 14, and because output 14, let's see what happened. 14 print, but let's see the value of y. Again, nothing come. So what I'm trying to tell you guys here is, okay, mostly 99.99%, whenever you are creating a function, you are doing something, and when you're doing something, you always need the output. 99.9% you always need the output, and in 99% cases you don't want output to be print on the screen, but this output you want to store in some variable so that this output you can use somewhere else. Okay, in that context, okay, print is not at all usable, even though we don't recommend to use print here. Okay, in this case I know my output is there in the z. In this case we have one keyword called return, and guys, this is use of the return keyword. So I'm asking this function whenever anybody call you. Okay, so let me give now final syntax of the entire function. So I'm asking the function if anybody want to use you, that is called call the function, call you. That point in time, based upon your signature, if you take the input or you have the argument, so they can send the input. Based on your input, inside your code, there's a code, whatever and however you want to use the input, use it. Okay, use your functionality and whatever algorithm we have created, run the algorithm, perform something, do some operations. Okay, whatever we want to do. Okay, and according to the plan, whatever the final output anybody decided, send this output to us. Means send the output to the one who call you. There only. Send the output to one. Then. And to send the output, we have to use the return keyword. And what output you send? You have to give your variable name or directly the data. Okay, so input is what? This, from here we can give the input. So this is the area from where we give the input. Okay, this is the area where we write our algorithm, and this is the area where we return something. Okay, so that's what we have created here. Now if anybody call, that time function run, nothing print, because we haven't used print here because we don't want to print, but the output of this function is stored in Y. Now how I know? You can see it's stored in the Y. So this output we can use somewhere else in the future where I want to use it. Okay, so mostly guys, 99.9% this is a very common function definition we always write. Take the input, use the input, writing some operation, and return something based upon the requirement. That's what we always do. Okay, now next point would be, this again very interesting to know. Let's say I have function, okay, and what I want, I would like to take a multiple inputs. Let's say 4 input or 4 arguments I have. Okay, and what I want to do, all this argument I want to sum, and let's say store in the Z, and let me remove these lines. I don't need this, like this. So all the input you are passing, you are summing up and put in Z, and we're returning the Z. This is one function we have. Now in this function we have a constraint. You have to always pass 4 arguments. It would be maybe something like this: 1, 4, 5 or 6. Okay, then they print. And guys, right now the printing, not because we are printing here, because right now we are into REPL, means Python live interpreter. Live interpreter guys by default always print. Okay, if you type print or not, they will always print, so don't be confused by this number. So this line is exactly equals to print behind the scene. That is the reason they're printing. But if you run this code in your normal text file, then run the Python, you will see it won't print. Okay, so typically if you write this line or this line in the Python live interpreter or in the Jupyter, okay, both the lines are same, because this live interpreter will print automatically for you. Okay, so don't be confused with this line. Otherwise, let's say we are storing the variable called P, or let's say in C variable, and let's just print the C. Now here what I'm trying to tell you here, in any of the programming language, if you type 4 argument, 4 parameter you have to pass. But I don't want to go for this constraint. What I want to do, I don't know how many data my user want to send, and whatever data I want to send, they would like to submit. Either they send 12, but they only send 4, they submit. So what can we do here? Okay, in this function, we can create a function, let's say mySum function, and if you have this kind of requirement, okay, that I don't know how many value my customer or my user who are going to use the function going to send, so you can use the variable, but you can use the star variable keyword here. Okay, star means by putting the star, your normal variable will be converted into tuple. Okay, and because tuple has the capability to store lots of data. So for example, let me print here just for checking what is the value of x. Now when I call this function, now the powerful thing about the function is I can pass n number of data, they won't fail. See here? So all data is stored in x, and we print the x, they print here, and guys, they print in the tuple. So that nobody can change the data directly on the x, because this is what my user send. I want whatever user send, I want to do on the same data without any change. So by default they create, we can convert it into list, this is a different point, but by default they give you a tuple only. Okay, so there's one thing. So even though if we check the type of x also, so the data type of x is tuple. This is one thing. Now based on this concept, now if I want to sum it, so how can I sum this value? So very simple, I can use a for loop and say go in x take the first value, okay, and print it. But I don't want to print what the value come up. I will start with j equals 0, that is showing my first day, yesterday. I will sum with j and update the j. Okay, that's all. So my first value 34 is stored in I plus j initially is 0, then 0 plus 5 was 34, and now j value is 34. Again my loop run, I pick 6 is stored in I plus the older value is 34, become new, let's say 40, and keep on running. So finally after this entire loop run, my final output of sum will be stored in j, and j I can return. That's all. Now this code is very flexible. Any function type, means this function is run with any kind of data, they will give the final sum. For example, I call one more time. Let's say I want to sum of 1, 2, 3, 4, make it 10. So this code is become relatively flexible. Okay, based upon my input, they store all the data in single variable, because they are tuple, and on this variable, what you want to do, that will be your choice. That will be your choice. Okay, so that's what we have done. The same concept I will have to apply here. So this is the code we have created. This code. So in this code, copy and paste here. In this code, we have one limitation. Okay, the limitation is whenever I call this function, they always give this output. Okay, it means anytime you call, anyone who call, they will always give the same output. So the good function is the one, okay, who can give the capability to take the input, and based on the input, they will perform the algorithm, they will perform the data, and accordingly they give the output. This is always a good practice of the function. Very rarely I want a function that will give always the same output, but 99.99% we want a function who give this flexibility to us. Okay, and why we don't have the flexibility? Because here we this function not taking any input. Inside this they put the fixed data. So what can we do in this function? We can take the variable, let's say data variable is a variable name, and I say there might be multiple data gonna come up, I can make it star. So rather we give fixed data here, we comment this line. We don't need this. Then I ask my for loop work on this data, what are we giving? Okay, and take a loop. Okay, don't use data if you have 3 bytes come up, then power it and append the data in this temporary variable. Okay, and maybe I don't want to print the data, because if you print any output, there is no way to store this data and final output in any variable. Maybe this final output, what I'm trying to tell you, let me show you. Now this function guys become a little flexible. If I call this function, okay, like even though they are not filling any error, why? Because I don't find anything, so I got an empty tuple, nothing gonna come up, nothing printed. But let's say I want to do something 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. In this case, see here, this entire data go in this variable, and for loop will power it to, and finally print will print it. Okay, but in this case, why I'm using this function? So this output I can use somewhere, because there is no way to store this output. For example, I want to store the output y variable, but you can't store. You can't store, because this function is not returning anything. Okay, so that is the reason in the y it goes none, and that's what guys, the y is none, even though if you see the data type of y is a none data type. Why none? Because function is not returning anything, they are only printing the output on the screen, on the terminal. Okay, so that is the reason guys. Okay, it's always good practice, whenever you perform the function, you always give the output, not print on the screen, always written. So whoever the user who want to use the function, they can decide where they want to use. So instead of print, it's a good practice always to use written. We can also written in this way also, with parentheses also work. In this case, they are not printing, okay, because we don't use print, but this output perform and store in the y, and wherever you want to use the y in the future code, you can use it. So this is the better function, I can say. They take the input, give the output, but based on the input they will do some action, whatever action you want to perform. Okay, now why I create the function? Okay, so that this logic I don't have to create again and again. I don't want to repeat my code. Okay, so there's a concept, guys, normally in the coding world we use this concept called dry principle, DRY principle. Means don't repeat yourself or don't reinvent the wheel, something like this. Means create the code once and use it again and again. Again, it's not loop. Loop means I create the code and same code I want to run 100 times, 200 times at there only. Here only I want to run 100 times, but maybe not. I create the code right now, maybe next day, after certain lines, I want to run this same concept again and again, or 1 time or 2 times. That time I keep on calling this function. The good thing about the function is this is now very flexible. Okay, so till now, guys, whatever the code you created, maybe today or maybe whatever code we created yesterday, the WhatsApp message. Okay, so this entire code we can put in the function. For example, let me take this code very quickly. What I created yesterday. Okay, WhatsApp, right? This code. Okay, in this code, better would be I can put the code inside the function def. And let's say name would be send WhatsApp. Let's WA for example. Okay, and here this is my entire function we have. So these are steps you have to follow to send the message. So I can say these are the algorithm we have, and we put the entire algorithm in one function. Okay, but here when you want to send the message, you want to send the mobile number. Okay, so this function should have a capability to receive the mobile number, and you might have multiple mobile numbers. I can use star here. Okay, so this is the better way to do it. But in this, guys, function by chance, because they're sending the messages, so there is no meaning of output, so there is no meaning of written here. So in this kind of example, because they're sending something somewhere, okay, so there is no meaning to get the output, so I don't need any output, I can say here, so there is no meaning to write the written in this example. So whenever I want to call this function, okay, I can send the mobile number, let's say +92 something 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 +96 something something something. Okay, the function will run, but they doesn't do anything because all the data go to this variable. My for loop will run in this variable, same variable here I use here. Okay, so whatever variable you use, same obviously you have to use somewhere in the code. And my for loop by chance check does this is start with 91, because now it started with 91, so they won't call this. Okay, but if I start any thing with 91, for example some random number I'm typing here, okay, in this case my function will run. By chance they're giving the output error, because here we are using this module, and this module we have to call somewhere. So let me call somewhere. Okay. Yeah. Okay, now if I send the message, you will see they start sending the message after the basically whatever time I written. At this time, at this point in time, my WhatsApp will start and message will send. But guys, again, it means this program is keep on running behind the scene. Okay, that is we have the start here, and till the time we start, we won't able to run next code. Okay, so how to solve this challenge? Maybe you want to run this code right now, or maybe this code is keep on running, but at the same time I want to run other code also. So this concept called multi-processing or multi-threading come up in the future classes. I'll show you how to do this. Okay, I can close the program here, but it will stop my function. My function say no, I have to run for 10 minutes or 1 hour here. So till the time function is waiting, or it's like a statement is waiting, you can't go to next line. Or not, you can't run the next line in a code. Okay, so for to solving this problem, problem means I want this function is keep on running also, and I want to run my other functions also. So there's a concept called multi-threading command. In the next class we will discuss. Right now I just forcefully restarting this entire code. Okay, okay, there's something about function I explained to input, do something, and and output. Okay, some more thing I want to explain about function is, let's say this function I have an SQL function and they are returning something, let's say hi. So when you call the function, they will return the hi always. Okay, so whatever you write here, you want to return hi, or maybe you want to return a list also. Hi, this one, Eric. Okay, so function has a capability they can return multiple values also. Maybe I have some requirement in the function and my function is I have to do multiple processes, I want to send everything. So function can return multiple things also. For example, my function is the one who takes some input in I and j, and here I want to do I plus j also. Okay, and I want to do I minus j also. So we can write here, I want to find, you want to return me I plus j also, I want to see I minus j also, I want to see I multiply j also. Okay, so one function can return multiple things together, but how, if you want to return multiple things, you write in a list or maybe in the tuple also. Okay, so when you call this function, let's say 5 and 10, so they return all the things. Okay, all the things. But again, very important point to be noticed. Okay, if you write the code print, for example, hi, and after this you write a print, for example, bye. So very important point to be noticed, right? As soon as function hit the return keyword, they stop the function there only. After return, any of the statement they won't run. It means they only run hi, they return this output, and after this, whatever statement you have, they won't run. Okay, so typically it is something like this: is for loop or while loop. As soon as you see the break, they stop the for loop or while loop. So if you want to stop the for loop while loop, we have the break keyword. Similarly, if you want to stop the function at some point in time, you can use return keyword. As soon as the return keyword come up, your function will stop, and whatever you write out in the front of return, function will return back to you wherever you call. You can use that output. After this, they won't run. That is a reason if you want to return multiple things, this is not work. If I write I plus j, okay, here, and then this, then I minus j. If you want to return multiple values, as soon as this line hit, they won't go to next line. Only first line will return. Go 50. Okay, so that is a reason multiple output you want to give, you to put all the output in one single list. Okay, or maybe if you guys try with tuple also. Okay, it will work. So however wise you can organize data, after return whatever you write, that will be written to you. Okay, so multiple data you want to return in the list or tuple or whatever you way, you can write after list return, but after return there is no meaning to write any of the code. Okay, that's also one point to be noticed. Okay, now this is one point. Now let me do one thing here. Let's say I want to create a function, let's say my data function, and here I would like to take the name of somebody, country name of somebody, okay, or let's say city of somebody. Okay, and according to this output, I want to just, I'm printing here, okay, and say let's say I'm printing something like this. I'm printing, for example, your city is colon, then I use space plus I. So I want to type this kind of print, this one, your country is country is, let's say, J. Okay, and this is Z, your name, let's say, is Z. Okay, now if I call this function, I will type my city, let's say Jaipur. This is my hometown, this is my country, India, and let's say my name, Vimal. So they print properly: city Jaipur, country India, name Vimal. So Jaipur is stored in I put the I here. Vimal is stored in Z or G, they store here, they printed. Now here challenge here is, thing is working fine. This function you created somewhere, or somebody else created this function for you. Okay, and now after you writing a code, lot of code, in the future you want to call this function again. Okay, and that time, guys, you might forget the signature of the function. You might type, let's say, one of the city is Mumbai. I type here, then I might type my name, let's say Eric here, and then I type my country, let's say India here. You forget the signature of the sequence. So what happened, guys? Output will send, but city is Mumbai right now, but country is Eric. Is not right. Name is India, is not right. So technically, however, guys, you type the data, same sequence, Jaipur will store in I only, second will store in J only, third will store in Z only. Same sequence they follow. Okay, so by default I can use this term here. Okay, by default, okay, whatever you store, whatever you type the data here, this is the 0%, and whatever you have here is called 0%. So the Jaipur will store in I. Vimal will store in the 1%. India, Vimal will store in the second person. Okay, so this argument, guys, is taking the value in the same order according to the position, and that is the reason they are known as positional arguments. Okay, that is the reason sometimes when you get the error, you see the error most look like this. You have properly positional argument required, one more person is missing. Okay, but positional argument sometimes is useful, but most of the cases it's not recommended. So to write the positional argument, one of the case would be this one. Sometimes the function will take lots of inputs. Okay, and whoever used this function, he is the one who created or somebody else created. So remembering the right position is very harder. Okay, that time, okay, it is highly recommended, okay, give a variable name a very proper name. Okay, proper name, let's say this variable name is city, this variable name, better name would be country, this variable name better would be name, for example. And where I want to use this variable, you can use it same way. City, this is a country. Okay, you can name. Okay, output is same here only, but if you give a proper name, so sometime in the future, let's say this is one who is want to use this function and they don't know what is the position argument we have, which steps we have to write. So here, guys, they can also take the help. How? The way I saw you yesterday, shift tab, and guys, here they tell you the signature of the function. Okay, because I use a very proper variable names. If I use ijk here, they also post to ijk here. So by looking at ijk is very harder. What is I, what is j, and what is k. Now it's very clear. Been very easily anybody can see it. First city, then country, then name. So first it is city, let's say Jaipur, then country, let's say India, then let's say name, let's say Vimal. Properly in order. So if you give a variable name very proper, so help will help you to give the entire flow of the score. But one more benefit you have, guys, here is better process would be you can use this variable name as a normal variable name. What I mean by this, I can also write city equals to Jaipur. This also can be done. Now I can write name equals to Vimal. That's also be done. And I can write country equals to It's country, right? Yeah, country. So country equals to, let's say, India. Okay. Now you can use in this way also. See here, working word. And the good thing is, if you use their variable names, let me write my code over here. If you use the proper argument name, then you can use any of the order. For example, here order matter. Jaipur will store in the first variable only. India will store in the second parameter argument only. But if you use the parameter name or sorry argument name, you can give any order. For example, we can write start city first, the name is by chance last, but we can store here. Country maybe come in the between, but maybe we can write here. Okay. So, but finally they store in the right variables. So country will store in country variable only. Name Vimal will store in the name variable only. Okay. So what is my recommendation would be, first, whenever you create a function, whatever the input you give, right, always give better name, anybody can understand. Second thing is, whoever calling, okay, better always call with whatever value you want to pass, but this value you can assign directly here. Means tell that this value I want to store in this particular parameter or argument, I can say. So this is a parameter I have, and I want this parameter to be stored in this argument. Okay. Again, this kind of assigning, for example, this kind of giving the value are known as positional arguments, and this kind of giving the input are known as named argument, because we are giving name with your value, name with the value. So this is called value, and this is called name, and this entire process is called named argument. Okay, named argument. Okay. So that is very much without also it work, but sometimes when you have bigger functions, lot of input they're taking, so having this, giving in this way, that's more makes sense. One example, guys, I always did yesterday. For example, if you use print, let's say the print, they also use here AND. So what is AND? Is a named argument. Here they say they can give the normal values here as a normal value, but after this you can use AND with some data. Okay. It means in this print there's a multiple different inputs. This one SCP file, but it doesn't matter wherever the AND is, whichever person they go, I want to replace this value or I want to add this value. Okay, add this value. So after this they will AND with this. This was the example I showed yesterday. But why we have this kind of flexibility to use any of the order, or any of the order I can give my input, because of this named argument. And you don't have to do it in some of the programming language, you have to do something else here to do this. Python is very dynamic. Okay, same syntax you can use for positional argument also, same syntax you can use for named argument also. So whichever way you want to use, finally function call you can use, but this is what I highly recommend always. Okay, one more thing I want to tell you guys. Sometime, okay, let's say this is the function we have, and this function is taking a lot of input, and mostly we know my customer is mostly from India, so rather than ask them always I don't want they fill it, I want automatically if they don't fill the country name India, my function will treat this guys as India. So in this case, if somebody don't fill the name, what can I do? While defining the function, I can fix the name here. If somebody don't define, we'll treat this guy as India. Okay. So doing this thing is known as a default argument. So we are setting some default values. In this case, guys, one more thing, guys. If default argument you write always in the last. So you first write all your named argument then in the last you have to write. This is what the syntax you have to follow. In this case, if by chance if somebody doesn't give the name of the country, by default my function will set the name to India here. But if somebody want to send the country name India, they can send it. But if somebody want to change the name to, let's say, US, okay, in this case whatever name you have already India, it will be alright. Then it will be US only. Okay, so again this is a good example for print, or again if you see in the print, if you don't send the value of and, they will by default give the new line. That's what they talk about. One more example I can show you. For example, in the print I can type Linux and space, I can type one more value. Guys, in the print I can print multiple words together by giving the comma. So there's a different value I can print with comma. Okay, and between these two values they always give one space, and this is space called separator, and separator is means between these two values they always give one separator, that is by default space. Why? Because in the print they have one named argument called separator, and their by default value is called space. Okay, so by default if you don't write, they will give the space only. But if you want to change the separator, you can change it. And let's say I don't want to give a space, I want to give comma. So now after between this they always give comma. Or maybe I want always hash come in between, so they give hash in between. So same thing like this we have done here. Okay, we have done here. Or maybe if the print, I can give you one more interesting example here. It will be something like this. For we have a database of multiple name, let's say maybe Jack. I have one more name, let's say Vimal. I have one more name, let's say Pop. And what I want to do, I want to run a for loop, I in DB. I have to store some name in the name and variable, for example. Then I want to print. Okay, I want to print my name, nothing special, name printed. But I also want to print after name one more string, that is my domain name. Okay, so what they do, they print the name and the domain name. Okay, but here we have the space command. So what can I do, instead of domain name @ if I print in this way, so what happen, name print my then domain name print, and this space I can replace with in the print with separator. By default they give the space, so here I can use separator @ so yeah, that makes more logical sense. Sometimes a lot of data is coming from here, I store in this variable, some other I store in other variable. I will put comma, comma separated file, CSV file, and colon, sometimes space. So all those guys, these predefined functions or keywords help us. But this is something what I have trying to explain you here as a default argument here. Okay, so this is one thing. Second thing is what I'm trying to explain you here finally is whenever guys you use this function, okay, internally for Python perspective, let me create one simple function to give you very quick explanation here. So let's say I'm going to create a function called Linux world function with the return called, let's say, let me use the print just to show you the output. Let's say Linux world. Okay, now in this function guys, when you call, they call it. But understand one thing, whenever you create a function for the Python perspective, okay, this function name is just like a variable. Okay, and what happened when you create a function in where somewhere in the memory, okay, entire block of code they store somewhere. This entire block of code they store somewhere in the memory like a normal data. And this person or this memory, they have obviously some memory address, and this address they store in a variable called LW. That is my function name. it means all the concept that you can apply in normal variables, you can apply here. Means, for example, LW is a normal variable. I can find their memory address the way you find it in the normal variable. Or I can do something like this. Let's say this is Y. I can give to L. So this address I am storing in Y. So both the guys has the same memory address. Okay. It means, guys, this function we created, but now we assign the entire functions, or we give the reference of the entire function to Y variable. It means whatever LW will do, same Y can also do the way you normally do. So without creating a Y as a function, now Y is working as a function. Okay, and at that easy reason, we write parentheses also here. If you don't write parentheses, it means they will tell you I am the variable, I am giving you a reference where I am in right now. Okay, or I can give my memory address. But if you want that whatever data I have here inside me, and you want me to go there and run step by step by asking from the help from CPU, in this case you have to ask me to do so, and for this you have to call me, and for calling you have to use this symbol, or why you can use this symbol. Okay, that is also one of the reasons why we use parentheses. Other reason is we can pass our argument and use the parameters, or pass the parameter which show the arguments. Okay, so that's also something about the function. Okay, and now because we have the function, so in the company we can create a function something like this. For example, function maybe for example maybe title or job title. Okay, title. Okay, and in this function what we'll do, they've written something. For example, written something, let's say maybe manager. Okay, now what is the benefit of this? Right now nothing cool it is. Okay, but based on the today's morning example, now if somebody come in my company and let's say how much salary they are giving, let's say 40. Okay, so depend upon the salary I can set that if your salary is greater than, let's say 20, in this case yes is greater than 20, this condition will true, and if the condition will true, okay, I will create a new variable, let's say new joinee in the company, and the title of this joinee would be this function. Okay. Otherwise not join. Okay, again this line doesn't make much sense. We can write multiple conditions here, but okay, but what I'm doing here, okay, based on my salary, if the salary is more than 20, then this condition run. When this condition run, the output of this function will store here. Again, that's one thing, function output will always store in the variable when they return. So in this case, new joinee will have the manager. Okay, or maybe I can create one more extra function here, define not join function, and they return not join. Again guys, having the function here doesn't make any sense, because my motto is not to explain the function here. My motto here is, okay, you can use the function now anywhere. Just what I want to show you, not join. Okay, so if somebody say let me write all the things in the one single line. Also let me print also here in the same single line. Okay, so if somebody say if your salary is 40, then new joinee will join as a manager. If your salary is, let's say 4, new joinee will not join. Okay, so they not join or they join. Okay, so if is the one who helping me either to run this function or this function. Okay, but which one to run if decide, but this function what they do it decided by the function. So whatever concept you write in the function, maybe this function will go and take in contact to your HR department, their databases, and they put something in the Excel sheet, they pick some data from there and return to you. They contact to some other team or security team, they pick some information to you or rule or policy from there and pick the things from there and show to you. So now it's all depend. This is the one normal inline statement you have created or one line statement you have created, but behind this statement there might be tons of different code is running, and that will finally return something to you based upon their particular algorithms. So it means you can run this or put this function anywhere, either here or maybe in the list comprehension. Where you want to use the function, you can use it. Only thing is, if you're using the function, mostly we want wherever using the function, okay, they will, this function will return something, so we can use this data to do something here. That's also one important point to note. Okay, so that is guys whole idea. Based on this idea, even though guys there's some more concept like keyword argument we have in the function, there's some more small discussion on the functions to be left in my upcoming class. I will discuss this because there's some more data structure I have to explain you, like hash, dictionary, all the things. Then I can explain you the remaining part of the function. But this is what they give you a lot of sense here to understand. Okay, and now tons of extra thing you can do. I showed you yesterday how to do WhatsApp messages. I given task how to send mail, how to how to send the SMS, all the things you have to try. Okay, let me show you one small thing as a last point. Right now guys, when you're printing something, okay, they print this string on the terminal. Okay, but if you want this output doesn't print on the terminal, you want to send the WhatsApp, I show you how. Same way you can try with SMS and email. But let's say I don't want to print here, I want this message to be sent to my speaker, and my speaker will speak it. Okay, so what technically I'm looking for, it is something like this. So whatever data we have, output we have, I want this data, okay, or I can say text, text, it go to speaker or my current laptop or my system, and speaker will speak it. And this concept is called text to speak, TTS. Maybe I have some program I want, when the program run or my tool run, they will speak something and say welcome to, let's say, #13 or Linux follow IIC Rise. Okay, and then we'll do the remaining part. Some part they print, some part they speak, some part they do something like this. So depend upon the requirement what you can do. So for this, what you have to do, means Python has to connect to your speaker. What is speaker? Speaker is a one kind of device. So same thing as I told you yesterday, if you want, Python will do something else for you to connect to cloud or IoT or some WhatsApp or to speaker. Most of the cases, we have extra library for this. Okay, and if you want to install the library, you can use pip command to install it, the way I showed you yesterday. So if I open my terminal, right, and we can use a pip command and say I want to install library. And guys, for this the concept called TTS, text to speak. Okay, we have a lot of library available in the Python because they're very famous concept. But one of the library I want to use here is called pytts x3. This is the library name. Otherwise, you can find much more library. There's a Google TTS also we have, and like this much more. You can use anything, but this is what I'm going to use. So pip command is the one who will install library for me. Library is something like a mobile app, the way I explained you yesterday. It gives extra extension and capability to the Python. Okay, and I told you guys, when you install the library always give you a lot of functions. Function 1, function 2, every function will do for you, and all the functions they give in one program file, and this program file is called module. So after installing library, you have to load the module in your code. So we'll talk more about the module in my next class. We'll create our own modules, so understand what is going on. But let me import the module. By the module name is also pytts-x3. Okay, and this module, guys, has given you a functions. There are a lot of functions they give you. One of the functions they give you init. What this function will do? This function will help you to connect to the speaker. Your speaker device. So this function will help you to connect to the speaker. So by running this function, your current speaker will be connected. Okay. Now you can ask the speaker and say, I want to say something, and then I want to say welcome to, let's say, Linux world. Okay, so this line will connect to the speaker, and this line will ask the speaker to speak something, convert the text into the speak or speech maybe. Okay, so they say I will do, but right now they haven't speak anything right now. Why? Because it asks the speaker whatever we ask him to do, just go and run it. Technically, they stored somewhere in the speaker memory. You can think in this way. Now we're asking whatever you have. We ask just I want to run it. Means speak it. So now in this case,
welcome to Linux world.
So I don't know, guys. Have you listened this point or not for my outside speaker? So I connect to my extra Bluetooth speaker, and I think you guys might listen this voice. Okay, that's okay. You can do it. Now this is a one steps we have created, but maybe in the future I want to run this code again and again. Okay, so what can we do? We can type all the guys in one single line, and this code I have to repeat again and again. So rather than you write again and again, you can put into a one function. Let's say my speak function, and this is the function we have created. Okay, maybe you always want to change the string, not always fixed string you want to speak. So here I can say I want to speak this text is a variable, and I want to replace my text over here. Once it's created. Now when I want to speak something, I can say my speak. Now what I want to speak, let's say hello, how are you? Now this function will take this and accordingly they speak with this point.
Hello, how are you?
Okay, so like this. So we can get this function. But right now, guys, this function is speak with some speed, with a male voice. But if you go to this library, you can find multiple different voice available, male, female voice with different things. For example, if you go to Python, pytts, voice change, and the documentation maybe. So you will find this project that's called this one, text to speech or speak. Okay, and here they show you how to install it. That's why I show you already. And this is the example code similarly I used. And here they give you more example to change the voice, volume, rate. Okay, you want to change the speed, the volume. You want to change. You can set some property, or you want to change the voice. Okay, with male or female. You can use this some kind of variable keywords here. Okay, so for this, what can you do? You can create your own functions here. Okay, here, and say, do you want to change your gender voice? Okay, if somebody say male, so accordingly you write some condition here, if or else. If somebody says gender, then I set this property, male. If somebody says female, I will set this property. So these are the functions given by this guy who created this module, but you can make this thing more simpler for your use. So based on the gender, I can say condition if else. If gender is male, I will set different property. If that is female, I will set the different property, something like this. So you can also create. So again, function would be every function have certain requirement, and how flexible you can make the function, that will be your choice. Accordingly, you can give the input. More and more input you give, more and more properly you write the steps, algorithm, or I can say the conditions also together, better your function will perform. And most of the kinds of functions, most functions will give the output what's called return. In this case, there is no meaning of return, because here I am not getting my data back. My data is actually sent to the speaker, and because I am not getting my data back, I don't want my data back the way I want here. Okay, so there is no meaning of return. Return will always return only the text data. But here my data is going to speaker, or to my SMS, to my WhatsApp, to maybe my cloud, or a speaker here. Then there is no meaning of return, and then without return they will speak and send to the speaker and they speak it. Okay, so guys, I explain you multiple different contexts, okay, about the function, but function is a better way to organize your code. We'll talk a little bit about more about function and then the modules in the next class, with some more very powerful concept the way I started today, like list comprehension, one line code. So these are so powerful feature of the Python that make the Python very, very powerful and sometimes simple also. Okay, so tons of things we discussed, guys. We are on the second day of this training. Now I would like to continue this training and the next day. So we will, guys, continue this training every weekend. So next training would be on next weekend, most probably on next Saturday, same timing, 2 o'clock. So that's all, guys, from my side. Any query if you have, if you are listening to me right now on the YouTube, I'm enabling the chat, live chat here. You can post your query there. Okay, I enabled already. Live chat open. If the live chat not visible in your mobile app or whatever system you connected, refresh your page, you will get the live chat. You can ask your query directly to me, or if you're there in the #13 platform, okay, you can comment directly. My technical volunteer is there to help you out. Okay, plus, okay, I guess also share, going to share our video of how to read the RAM. So I have given the entire video created that will help you to set up the entire setup, through which if you want to read the entire RAM, you can read it. So that video, guys, will share also in your respective #13 platform. Okay, otherwise that's okay. Any query if you have, you guys can ask me. So where I can get this notes, guys, all these notes, okay, all these notes will be uploaded in the Google Drive, and I think Google Drive link, guys, we already share in your respective WhatsApp group. I think you guys have the WhatsApp group already. Okay, otherwise I asked my team, soon we will also give the link of the Google Drive in your YouTube description also. So if you're there in the #13 portal, I think we have already put the link there of the Google Drive. Okay, we also put the link soon in your WhatsApp group also, if you've not been shared. Otherwise, we also put in the description of YouTube also. Yes, Ashutosh, we will cover multi-threading also in upcoming classes. Okay, because minimum requirement for multi-threading is function we have discussed. In my next classes, we will discuss about multi-threading also. Okay. So if in the function Python, if you don't have the return, actually Prashant, it's a good thing you asked. Okay, if you don't use return, by default the last line of function internally is written. Okay, so internally is written. So if you don't write in, last line is by default is written. But I have some more discussion on it in my next class. I will do. But this is how it works. Okay. So Can we functions? Yes, bridges, you can do it. In my next class, when I talk about other concept of functions, especially the recursion concepts, right? Then I explain this concept in very detail. Plus, I will also talk about the stack memory, very interesting concept, in my next class. Okay, can we pay the fees on 1 and 2 parts? Parthik, I don't handle. You have to contact to our management team. They will help you what will possible. WhatsApp message don't send automatically. No, it won't send guys automatically. When you run this code, it will open in a new tab WhatsApp page with the same mobile number and the message type there. You have to click the button there to to send the message. That is because Python lose the control because you open a new tab, so there is no control left by the Python. This is one of the reason. But we have one more way. If you want to send the WhatsApp message without inserting or hitting the button of send also, so there's a concept called API. So what WhatsApp will provide some API. So by after knowing the API concepts or REST API concept, we can do so. Okay. So if anybody know full stack development, there we normally talk about the REST API. Okay, I don't think so in this training we are going to discuss REST API because this training is not about the web development or the web services related training. But I'm just giving you this as an example or as an idea. So if you know REST API, WhatsApp give you REST API. So you can directly call the REST API WhatsApp that will give the call known as send message. By this, you don't have to click enter, they will send the message. How to use the API? In this training, there is no meaning to discuss about the API. Okay. So, guys, anything about object-oriented polymorphism, inheritance, classes, subclasses, everything object-oriented will be discussed in very detail from very zero. Harsh, don't worry. Maybe in next classes, this is the topics we are going to start. Okay. So, how to deploy and bundle the code? Maybe Abhijit, I might give some idea in my next class about this point. Okay, the deploy the code perspective. No, Abhishek, Jupyter doesn't need any internet, right? Jupyter doesn't need any internet. Okay, I'm running Jupyter in my local laptop. See here, they are running in my local laptop. Jupyter doesn't need any internet. Yeah, if you use any online Jupyter, there's a different point. Obviously, that point you need internet. But in our case, the way I started, it is running locally. Okay, guys. According to we planned this course that is around 16 hours that we have planned. But I feel the way and the depth we are going into this course, it will go more than 16 hours because my plan is to cover every core concept of the Python. So it might go more than 16 hours, maybe around 20 hours or something, 24 maybe. Let's see in the future classes. Okay, but yeah, everything about Python, core internals will be covered here. How to use return variable? I think I already show you guys return variable. I show you already, then we use multiple times. So if you have any other query, I don't know, maybe you are asking something else, so let me know. How can you assign multiple value return by a function to multiple variables? Yes, Ramesh, you can use the same unpacking. Okay, unpacking you can use the way I show you. A function returning multiple values and you want to assign to multiple variables, you can use the unpacking concept the way I explained you in my last class. If I have the function, same function with me, for example, this is the function I have. This function returning this function, let me run. This function returning multiple values, right? So I want to assign this value in multiple variable. I can use something like I, j, p. Okay, I, j, p. Okay, so first value is stored in I, second value is stored in j, and next value is stored in p. So same concept what I explained you about unpacking. We can use unpacking in function, list, tuple. Whoever give you multiple value, we can use unpacking. How I can do the attendance? Guys, after completing the attendance, then only we can process your training certificates Okay, and remaining formalities also, I think Preeti ma'am had already announced in the last class. Otherwise, we can update you in a WhatsApp group, okay, about the attendance process. Soon you will get the details. Okay, so that's all, guys. Anybody who by chance doesn't have WhatsApp connected or part of our internal WhatsApp group, just check your Gmail. We have sent the mail from Preeti Linux World or #13. We have given the link of the WhatsApp group. You guys go and join the group so that all the management related information we are keep on sharing in your group only. Okay, so that's all, guys. See you in the next class. Again, a lot of core concepts with a lot of different use cases we are covering, but slowly we'll go more and more deep into this course. Okay, that's all. See you. Bye. Take care. Good day and good night.